It's that time of the morning again, and you know what to expect right here in these studios with moi, yours truly. It's the AM show, and we're about to serve it to you hot this Wednesday morning. Now, what can you expect as you join us through the course of these 4 hours? Well, quite a list. So we'll start with the news up next, followed by the news review. Guess who joins us? It's a Wednesday morning. Dr. Kwame Asante. He's a political scientist and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. That will be followed by sports. Muftau Nabila Abdullahi will be serving that. And then we get into our big stories. Now, number one on the chopping board, we're looking at ending Galamsey. The hashtag Stop Galamsey Now continues. And this morning, we engage you, our viewers, our audience, on how you think the newly elected Mahama government should treat the menace of illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. It has become an existential threat to our society, but how do we deal with it? How do we ensure that the incoming administration will deal with the situation as we want? Well, we'd welcome your thoughts on that, after which we'll serve you a very interesting conversation, courtesy of our sister station, Joy 99.7 FM. This morning, they are hosting the majority leader and legislator for Efutu, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, for a conversation. You don't want to miss any of these conversations we're going to have, so stick and stay. Up next, though, we'll be serving you the news. Let's settle for the news now. In our first story, the salaries of public sector workers for the first 3 months of 2025, with the entire government machinery at a risk of shutting down after Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam failed yet again to present the mini budget. Now, the document was expected to be presented yesterday, but the minister did not show up. On Tuesday also, the minister was not in Parliament, igniting fierce controversy. The Minority Chief Whip, Kwame Governs Agboja, is alleging a grand scheme by the NPP to hamstring the future John Mahama administration. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has more.
There's a looming government shutdown if the 2025 mini budget is not approved. The mini budget will cater for the first quarter of 2025, that is January, February, and March. It will pay government salaries and it will ensure that government agencies keep running when a new government comes in place before it presents its substantive budget. But that is all at risk because the mini budget, which is supposed to be about 68.1 billion Ghana cedis for the first quarter of next year, has still not been presented. Parliament has been sitting since Monday. It has been on the order paper, and that document has still not been laid by the finance minister in Parliament. On Monday, there was a big controversy over this, and the indication was that the finance minister would do it on Tuesday. Tuesday has come, Parliament has sat, and Parliament has since adjourned, but there has been no movement on that.
I hope there's no conspiracy to make it impossible for this to be laid, to be taken, until Parliament, the 8th Parliament expires. The whole world would have known that it was a deliberate decision of somebody not to lay this to be taken. I hope the rumors circulating are false. I just hope it's false.
But the 2024 NPP running mate, who is also the MP for Menchia South, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, says the NDC MPs are simply after their own interests.
Mr. Speaker, it is not the first time in this House that even a minister brings a document and decides that I'm going to withdraw the document. It will not be the first. So the fact that the Speaker has got the expenditure vote on account doesn't mean the Minister of Finance, in the light of what the Supreme Leader, Osei Chairman Sabotu, said, certain things might have happened on the physical space in this country, such that the finance minister may be looking at his figures very well.
But Eric Opoku, who is the ranking member on the Agri Committee, says the NPP side have lost, and it appears to him as simply not interested in doing the business of Parliament.
Their tenure has not ended. They have not handed over yet. They still have a duty to perform under the Constitution of Ghana. We have gone through several transitions. No president has ever avoided a critical duty like this in our nation. The new government will be ushered in early January. So we need expenditure in advance of the budget to be able to pay salaries from January, February, March until a new budget is introduced into this house.
Carlos Ayinkra says the NDC will only get a mini budget if they agree to support government in terms of the 1D, 1F tax waivers that is currently before the House.
Allow us to bring up the government business for us all to debate and agree to disagree. But you don't tell us what to do. Mr. Speaker, if you wish to ask us what we want to do first, we don't want to present any bills right now. We want to put 1D, 1F exemptions on the floor so that we debate it and agree to disagree. That is where we want to commence from.
But former Majority Leader Osei Chairman Sabonso has been offering some firm commitments on this matter.
We are where we are. However, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest strongly that the minister is aware of his responsibilities and he is not minded to renege. And certainly the voting account will be presented in the House. I'm just saying that as I've been doing, I'm not able to do that because this morning when we met, he wasn't there. And because he wasn't there, I have no instructions from him. I cannot present the paper on behalf of the minister. But the needful will be done.
If this document is not presented, salaries will not be paid in January, February, and March of 2025. The government will completely grind to a halt and there will be a government shutdown. And that is why both sides of the House are working together to ensure that this mini budget is presented so that government is not shut down in 2025. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, President-elect John Mahama has announced plans to soon inaugurate a committee dedicated to ensuring that he achieves a 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana. This contract includes the Operation Recover or Loot initiative, which aims at combating corruption by investigating allegations, recovering misappropriated state resources, and prosecuting offenders. Now, speaking during a courtesy call for members of the Apostolic Fathers, he stressed his administration's commitment to enhancing accountability. We'll hear from John Mahama in a moment, but first, founder of the Action Chapel International and member of the Apostolic Fathers, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, urged Ghanaians to manage their expectations and rather pray for the president-elect.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that at the point the media will excuse us. So, but for now, we came with some few proposals to discuss as our guide. Most times when new president and government comes, there's a very high expectations that high expectation that everybody has, and so we know that expectations have to be managed because you are a vessel that has come. I mean, these things that people say you've come to save, you've come to rescue, they should be very careful of that because you are a vessel in the hands of God. So they should stop saying that and pray for you rather that God can use you to execute the mandate that the people of this country have entrusted into your hands. I know it's a difficult challenge. During the time you were in opposition, we were talking one time and you were saying that Mama Lodina, you and her were talking, and it was like, what at all are you doing? You know, why are you standing for election with the kind of situation that we are facing and things are going through? But I think that was when you realized that it's a call and it's a mandate of God that you have to fulfill. And I remember that when we talked 2016, I had mentioned to you what I felt prophetically, that you have to leave. And at the right time, you come again. And 2020, we met again with Honorable Elvis in my office. And I said to you that, Mr. President, you are not coming now. You will come after 2020. So when 2020 ended, I was very confident, irrespective of whatever anybody said, that it was your time to come back to fulfill mandate and to finish your unfinished business. And I believe that by God's grace, who preserved you, kept you alive, and you didn't die, and you lived, and you are still here, will guide you, preserve you, and give you what it takes to move this nation according to his mandate to where he wants to take this nation to. And we want to pray and believe that at your term of office, that the narrative, the negative narratives that have plagued governments of this country will change during your term in office, and that we will see a new and a beautiful Ghana by the grace of God. In the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter and the 17th verse, the Bible says that all the living may know that the Most High rules in the affairs of men and give the kingdoms of men to whomsoever he wills. And it is very clear that what has happened in Ghana is the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 4 and the 17th verse, that God...
Well, let's now hear from John Mahama on his plans to soon inaugurate a committee dedicated to implementing his 120-day social contract with the people of Ghana.
We carefully selected the things that we thought were achievable in 120 days. And so we're going to work diligently to make sure that at the end of 120 days, we're able to put a check on each of them. And so I'll soon inaugurate a committee that is focused on achieving the 120-day plan. And under it, we have Operation Recover All the Loot. I'm happy you have expressed your support for it, because I do think that people must be held accountable. If you agree to accept the public trust, then you must account to the people who gave you that public trust. And so if we do this, it will make people think twice before they accept public office. I mean, if you live in your own private business, you can run it anyhow you want. That's your business. But if you come and the taxpayer you're put in an office which is paid with taxpayers' money, you must be prepared to account to the people for the trust that they have put in you. And so we want to raise accountability to another level. It's in our constitution that we shall uphold the principles of probity and accountability. And so it's a constitutional obligation for us to do that. As I said yesterday, this probably is our last chance to get things right, because if this administration does not lift the level, then, I mean, people really would look at other means of, being able to achieve what they think would make life better for them. And as I said, we're not immune to what is happening in other countries in our sub-region. And so we need to work as quickly as possible to bring back trust in our democracy. We know that democracy is the best system because it affords you the opportunity to do some of the things that have happened, hold elections, change governments. In unconstitutional governments, whether you like it or not, you live in it, and you cannot make a change if even things are not going very well. So there's a lot of work to do, and I think that in the space of agriculture and agribusiness, agro-processing, that's a new area the churches must begin to look at.
Now, the Tertiary Education Workers Union Ghana is opposing what it describes as an attempt to smuggle a rival group onto the council of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. The membership of both groups on the 12-member council has been suspended pending investigations by the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. However, one group alleges there are attempts to bypass the commission in resolving the issue of representation on the university council. Ohiming Tewia has more.
The Tertiary Education Workers Union Ghana, TEU Ghana, broke out from the Teachers and Educational Workers Union of the Trades Union Congress, TEU TUC, in June 2022. TEU Ghana is said to have galvanized a total of 866 out of the 1,060 existing members of TEU TUC at KNUST. The Labour Group has had no representation on the University Council of the KNUST since 2019. Section 7H of the KNUST Statutes says the University Council shall have a representative of the Teachers and Education Workers Union. But TEU Ghana insists their rival group is not qualified to represent the interests of teachers and education workers because it lacks the capacity. Here is the national chairman of TEU Ghana, Sulemana Abdulrahman, addressing a press conference in Kumasi.
The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, the regulator of tertiary institutions in Ghana, issued a directive dated on the July 2nd, 2024 to KNUST management to stay any action regarding the representation of the University Council at KNUST until the matter is fully resolved. This directive was issued to ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability in the selection of University Council representative. Regrettably, KNUST management has proceeded to violate this directive, prompting our union to take this stance. We have reason to believe that this action was taken without proper consultation and consideration of the potential consequences. As a peaceful and law-abiding union, we urge KNUST management to respect GTEC's directives and avoid actions that may lead to chaos on campus.
In a letter dated July 2, 2024, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission advised KNUST management to postpone the swearing-in of the TEU-TUC representative until the matter is fully resolved. Mr. Rahman warned any attempt to smuggle in TEU-TUC representative onto the council will be resisted.
If not because we are a law-abiding union, in fact, a lot of issues could have happened, because you can imagine if you deny about 1,000 people representation and allow about 25 people to go and then represent almost more than 1,000 people. Can you imagine if we're not law-abiding, what would have happened? And as I said, if care is not taken, if they don't stop this, at the end of the day, if anything happens on this campus, if there's any chaos, it is the management who have called for it, and they should be held responsible. Yes, our next step is to make sure that on Thursday, as we have been informed that there will be a council meeting, even if they are going to have the council meeting outside Ghana, TEU Ghana will follow them to wherever they will have the council meeting to make sure that the gentleman they are trying to smuggle into the council meeting will not be allowed.
Meanwhile, authorities at KNUST are yet to respond to the issues raised by the group. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimenteria reporting.
Now, a devastating fire ravaged a section of the racecourse market in Kumasi, destroying over 30 shops. The blaze, which started at around 1 a.m. on Tuesday, primarily consumed metal containers and wood shops owned by traders in watermelon, grape, and cold store operators. The Ghana Fire Service dispatched 3 fire engines to battle the flames and prevent further damage. While no casualties were reported, the fires left many traders devastated after losing their livelihoods. Nanawachi Adam has more in this report.
The devastating fire swept through the racecourse market on Tuesday, destroying 30 shops and leaving traders counting their losses. The fire, which started around 1 a.m., quickly spread through the market, fueled by strong winds and largely wooden structures of the shops. According to traders, firefighters from the Ghana Fire Service were called to the scene but delayed in their attempt to quench the fire. They are, however, counting their losses. Naomi Sewa is leader of the Watermelon Sellers Association.
7:30. Me wo fia na yefrɛ me sɛ nana fruit fo no watermelon fo mo wash. Sɛ na ho de ye wash sɛsɛn. No mo se jani dem na me se free hen no mo se start free blast ma ho. Na sɛ wo mo pɛ fire service fo ni yenya bi ye frɛ ya no wo mo mfa. Ti ma me frɛ wona bɔkɔ ache ka kire no.
I heard the news around 7:30. I tried reaching the fire service, but they did not respond on time. So I called Honorable Kwachi, who quickly called them to come to our aid. We lost everything in the shops, including watermelon, apple and grapes.
apple ni grapes ni nyina yes ahia du mabedi akire ne ho to ne kosi ya fire service for ne ba ya itimi edum ye nkanya saade a ene nkempata wa hade empata ni nyina so bia ne wa watermelon nim.
The fire was finally brought under control early Tuesday, but not before it had destroyed 30 shops, leaving traders with significant losses.
Na fire service
It is very devastating. I came to meet the fire service, but I am sure they didn't come on time. But they rescued some few shops. There are plenty shops out there that got burnt. We need help from government. It's not an easy investment made. We have children and orphans we take good care of. Meanwhile, the cause of the fire is still unknown. The fire service has launched an investigation into the cause of the fire, and the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has promised to provide support to the affected traders. In the meantime, traders are left to pick up the pieces and try to rebuild their businesses. For Joy News, Nana Bochi Dankwa-Yadom, Kumasi.
The Cape Coast Teaching Hospital has taken delivery. We'll bring you details of that story shortly concerning the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. We'll take a breather. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital has taken delivery of laparoscopic equipment and instruments, paving the way for the facility to begin modern laparoscopic surgeries. Now, this surgical technique allows doctors to perform operations through small incisions, offering benefits such as shorter recovery times, minimal scarring, and greater precision. Now, speaking at the unveiling of the equipment, Dr. Michael Norte, lead clinician for the Department of Surgery at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, disclosed that the surgical team had completed laparoscopic training through the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. More detail will be given you in Abdallah Usman's report.
Laparoscopic surgery is commonly used for abdominal surgeries, gallbladder removal, hernia repair, kidney removal, prostate surgery, and others. Speaking at the ceremony to receive the equipment facilitated by the Korean Federation of International Health, lead clinician for the Department of Surgery at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, Dr. Michael Norte, explained the hospital was fully ready to undertake such procedures.
We are ready. We have patients ready. At least tomorrow we are starting with about 3 patients. We're doing 2 cholecystectomies and 1 diagnostic laparoscopy for an infertility patient. The difference between laparoscopic surgeries, or what we call minimally invasive surgeries, is that we don't do the traditional big incisions. So the patient is cut, but it's through small incisions through which we put our pots. And the advantage is that the patients recover very fast. Sometimes they can go home the same day, they can be discharged the same day, or maximum 48 hours, they're out of the hospital. So if you have patients who are very busy, they don't have much time to stay on the ward for weeks, and those are the kind of patients that you want to book for such cases.
Chief Executive Officer of the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, Dr. Eric Kofinjedu, thanked the Federation and the Ministry of Health for making the gesture possible.
Fortunately, the skills lab is ready, the simulation center is ready, our surgeons have gone through some form of training, and then very soon, probably tomorrow, we'll be operating 5 patients using this technology. As a teaching hospital, we think this is the way to go. And I'd like to, on this occasion, express our sincere gratitude to COFI, the Korea Federation of International Health, and then the Ministry of Health, that has also supported us hugely by granting us the necessary waivers to bring in this equipment that we are seeing today. Today, a handing over has been done. It's been handed over to the Department of Surgery.
that will begin its utilization from tomorrow.
Country Director of Kofi Ghana Office, the benefactors, Yang Buming, says their collaboration with the hospital is to help improve health outcomes.
This funding is from Community Chest of Korea, so that we could make this project. So this project is included for supporting laparoscoping machine and the training. So that finally we got laparoscopy machine here. And we already provided 3 times training, so including the theory and practical and animal training as well.
Abdallah Osman's reports read to you.
Welcome to our business update. And the Chamber of Agribusiness has welcomed the decision by President-elect John Dramani Mahama to rename the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to help focus on government's policies. Speaking to Joy Business, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, has said the move would help address challenges of food insecurity in the country and create more jobs.
I think the President-elect's decision to rename MOFA to MOFA reflects the current global trend in the global agriculture value chain, in that it does drive employment generation or employment creation. It also reduces the country's overriding responsibility on importation. It also provides an opportunity for us to reduce our post-harvest losses as a country tremendously. Now, and above all, it helps us to look at a long-term strategy in how to create some form of global buffer in terms of our export foreign exchange, and also for the next the next 1 year to 5 years, this has the potential to add about 10 billion annually to Ghana's economy. The way MOFA is set up, MOFA is not strategically set up to be able to advance the critical areas of the value addition, agro-industrialization, i.e. with the overarching aim of driving agribusiness. MOFA is currently positioned as a policy designer and implementer, but to reinforce agribusiness into its operation requires that as the new president, you'll be able to add other areas of MOFA's activity to strengthen its ability to deliver on the agribusiness mandate.
Now, Social Security and National Insurance Trust contributions by private firms have reached some record levels. The Bank of Ghana puts the amount at 460 million Ghana cedis, ending September this year. George Wiafe has the rest of the story.
Bank of Ghana data showed that there has been some significant increase over the past 1 year when you track contributions. This is because around September last year, contributions from private sector firms stood at around 360 million Ghana cedis. Fast forward to September 2024, and that has gone up by more than 100 million Ghana cedis. But if you compare to August 2024 to September this year, contributions have slowed marginally. But despite these developments, data from the Social Security and National Insurance Trust has also shown that contributions from these private firms has been one of the major inflows in helping the State Pension Trust in meeting its payment obligations to pensioners. The Bank of Ghana report also revealed that the number of private sector firms contributing to the scheme stood at 1,040, ending September this year. For some, the data could show that a lot more firms are employing people and also coming out of the recent economic crisis, which forced most of them to shut down their operations.
It's a wrap for business. It's also a wrap for the AM News. But we leave you with our currency market for today. warm welcome back. This is the news review segment on the AM show. And we're joined by our guest. He is a political scientist, also director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. His name, Dr. Kwame Asante. Doc, you would have to unmute, Doc, so we can hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me, Ben?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, good morning to you. And good morning to our listeners and viewers as well.
Right. So we have a stack of papers. We'll get into them as much as we can, but let's start with your thoughts for us this morning.
Right. I'll begin with looking at the government policy, the new incoming government policy of within the 120 days bracket that you want to undertake a few things, including implementing the ORA, that is Operation Recover Loot. Yes, all loots, yeah. I think it's a good thing, and I support the incoming government. Political officers are giving to people with trust that they will come and manage affairs on our behalf. And it is normal. If you read our constitution, which we have appended our signature to, that we believe in a lot of principles, including probity, accountability, and the rest of them. And tied to that, we are also implementers of the World Bank policy of good governance, which requires that at all times we should ensure probity and transparency. And these are the canons by which you can measure any government with the title or any government operating under the umbrella of good governance. So on that score, I'll urge the government to go ahead and then begin to look out for various acts of malfeasance, and then begin to call people to answer questions on that. And I think for a good starting point should be the cathedral that the Shraj in recent time has done a beautiful work on it. They can run with it, and for us to know where it went wrong, so that we'll be able to strengthen the frontiers of our democracy and the governance system that we have in this country. This is a very simple message for the incoming government.
Well, thank you very much for that succinct message. And especially as you talk about oral, Operation Recover or Loot, of course, we cannot confirm, but I've seen images purporting that some 17 caches, boxes of gold were being attempted, or there was an attempt to smuggle them outside and all that, and that supposedly some team had stopped them, purportedly from the NDC. All of these make for interesting times, but we'll see how that story develops. I don't know whether you've caught wind of that video. Of course, we cannot establish full veracity of it, but Operation Recover or Loot, from some of the calls we've got in the course of the week, even yesterday, people want, in fact, some would say that, look, we don't even care about their going to jail, though both can happen. Prison terms and then recovery of sums lost to the state. But they are more interested in those sums being recovered and then used practically for the benefit of Ghanaians. So I guess we are all in consonance with that. And the former president said that, look, if you've not done anything that, makes you dirty, I believe Malik Basintali reiterated that, there's nothing to fear. But if you have, then you'll have everything to fear. So that is that. Asem de Nasem Beko. Let's get into the papers, Doc. I'll start with the Daily Graphic. Prioritize development, leave good legacy. Yagbongura advises Mahama. Then Finance Minister will lay expenditure in advance of appropriation. That's according to Che Mensa Bonsu, and he's been assuring that. Yesterday there was a standoff. The Finance Minister, Dr. Amin Adam, should have done this, but twice now there has been a no-show, if you like, and some have suggested that it is because the other side, the minority, which will soon be the majority, is also not playing ball when it comes to tax waivers and the payments for certain, matters of state that the current administration wants to go through Parliament. Well, police probe fire that destroyed Ablikuma North electoral materials, and yesterday we brought you live coverage of that devastating fire at the Kwashima and Cluster of schools. There's also Bui Power Authority on the back page, commissions 50-megawatt solar power plant in Yendi, and NRSA urges drivers to reduce road crashes in Yuletide. So I'll start from the back page, actually. The National Road Safety Authority has called on drivers and other relevant stakeholders to play their roles efficiently to reduce road carnage in the country during the Yuletide. It identified the various stakeholders as the law enforcers, drivers and passengers who have a crucial role to play in ensuring safety on the roads. The call was made at the launch of a road safety campaign ahead of the Christmas and New Year festivities at Bonso in the Ebuakwa South municipality in the eastern region. Christened Operation Stay Alive, Comply, the campaign urged drivers and other road users to be disciplined on the road and also obey road traffic regulations to ensure that no lives were lost through accidents. Here, the target group for me will be passengers. I have seen instances. In fact, there was a time where someone, a trotro driver, crossed me in a way that if I were not being extremely careful, would have bumped into each other. And when I went out and accosted him, he rained insults on me. That's fine. I mean, I don't mind. But I asked the passengers, you are sitting in here, you are not saying anything, and the driver is driving like this. Do you not realize that if there's an accident, you will be affected? And they were all quiet. So sometimes that's the problem. The passengers who say nothing, and you may end up in a very troubling situation, which is irreversible. So for me, that's my little bit. Then a 50-megawatt peak solar power plant has been commissioned at Galgu, a farming community in the Yendi municipality in the northern region, to boost electricity supply to the municipality and the entire Eastern Corridor enclave. The $59 million plant, constructed by the Bui Power Authority, is designed to address the strain on existing power transmission infrastructure and reduce the likelihood of power outages and voltage fluctuations. This is good news. We know about the NETCO, and we know about ECG and the VRN, all those in the power supply chain, the IPPs. But recently, we've had those, not just recently, it's been a while, but again, we are facing power issues. And if this comes to at least help, in a way, sustain the Eastern Corridor area, sustain the northern belt of the country, that, of course, could minimize the pressure on the Akosombo Dam and other infrastructure. I would have you react on these two stories if you have any thoughts quickly before I get into other stories. Doc.
I'll begin with road crashes. This phenomenon has been with us for years, and we hope and pray that this year we will do well to record very little or nothing at all. My wish is that if we could record nothing at all in terms of road crashes, we will be great in this country, because it's been a difficult thing for us. Every time these messages go out there, but people defy them and do the odd things and create problems for us. We want our people alive, and we want those who are careless in this industry, I'm talking about the road users, to be wary of this and then stay alive. Ghana needs them. I want to look at the solar power program. It's a beautiful program, and I want it to be sustained and then extended to other sectors of the Ghanaian economy. For instance, universities and other schools. Imagine we begin to pilot this project in the universities. It's going to save us a lot of money, and then it reduces the pressure that is brought to the national grid. So I will urge stakeholders to begin to think outside the box and then support this cause, particularly in the area of government schools, universities, and other institutions.
All right. Let's get into some of the other stories. Prioritize development, leave good legacy. Yagbonwura advises Mahama. And Yagbongura Tumtumba Boresa II has urged President-elect John Dramani Mahama to prioritize the country's development and strive for a good name and a lasting legacy. The call to action was conveyed through a delegation of chiefs from the Gonja traditional area who visited the president-elect at his office in Accra yesterday to congratulate him on his victory in the December 7 election. The delegation included the Damangowura Seidu Kelly Boresa I, Mankpangwura Anchode Pembiwura Bismarck Ndefesu Bambanya I, Yapeiwura Abi Zakaria, and the chief linguist of the Yagbongwura, Adam. Quoting him, he says, "We came to congratulate his, that is the Yagbongwura's son, on his victory in the election, and to also thank him for being present at the funeral of his, that is the Yagbongwura's late mother," that Damangowura Boresa said. He said the Yagbongwura knew the president-elect to be a peace-loving person who would move the nation forward, and that he wants him to focus on development so that at the end of his tenure, he will make a good name for himself, which is what the people of Gonjaland stand for, Damangowura Boresa said. So that's it. That's the charge to incoming President John Dramani Mahama. Let me go now to page 13 and continue from there. All right, here we are. Finance Minister will lay expenditure in advance of appropriation. That's the story there. And the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, has given assurance that the Minister of Finance will present the expenditure in advance of appropriation to Parliament this week for members to approve the salaries of public sector workers for January to March 2025. He said Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam first presented the document to the House ahead of the conduct of the December 7 polls, when the leader of government business pleaded that, quote, "we should have business transacted on that." However, Dr. Adam had to withdraw the document from Parliament following the quibble that ensued over which side constituted the majority. And so he adds, "So let it not be stated for the record that the ruling administration is failing in its duty, as this is a palpable untruth." But we also know that there have been two other opportunities for the finance minister to do this, and he's been nowhere to be found. Well, that's another story. And let me end with this one and then come back to you. Police probe fire that destroyed Ablekuma North electoral materials. And the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana National Fire Service are investigating a fire outbreak that ravaged parts of the Kwashiman cluster of schools in Accra in the early hours of yesterday. The fire destroyed the ballot boxes of the December 7, 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections for the Ablekuma North constituency. The public cluster of basic schools is where the ballot boxes of the elections for the Ablekuma North constituency were being kept. And the results of that constituency's parliamentary contest are part of the few still in dispute, with the Electoral Commission announcing an intention to recollate the results of the parliamentary election in that constituency. And guess what, Doc? That's where you would have that tussle. Indeed, some mechanic who engaged some 3 gentlemen who were passing through. He asked them what they were doing, and they said, oh, they were just passing through towards the school. And they were holding something. He didn't know what. Shortly afterwards, there was some sort of explosion. The fire broke out at around 1 a.m. And the library of the Kwashiman cluster of schools, the ICT lab, the science lab were all affected. In fact, students were due to sit exams yesterday. They were not able to do so on the back of this. And I think it's Irabna Obin, who was of the NDC, who was declared winner there. But it was contested. Now the ballots have been burnt. Your take?
I think it's very unfortunate. This problem would have averted this if the planning that went into this had taken into consideration the right place to place this. Why do you put such an important document in a classroom that is going to be used by students? That is no. And
but you know that some of these voting centers, the polling centers, are in these places. So I guess it was the closest place. I suppose it may have been a station itself, and that was why they merely they put it there. But I agree with you to the extent that it could have been moved elsewhere, but it was left there.
Exactly so.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
So because after the the declaration at the polls, at the polling stations. The next place, you could have moved it and then have a secured place to put this thing. But these classrooms, you and I know that they are not that fortified to, support an exercise such of this nature. So it creates a difficulty for me to understand why they kept it there, because anything would definitely happen there. And because of the less security structures that are put in there, is going to create a problem. And I think that going forward, we should factor these things into the calculation of election management process so that we get the basics right. Because all these things are things that affect the quality of our elections one way or the other. Because you want to preserve the ballot at all times so that when the court even want them, we can produce them for that. So I think that is no. Yes. Double Kuma, that is then the standoff in Parliament. Right. Yeah, about the budget and the rest of them.
The mini budget, yes.
The mini budgets. I listened to some exchanges on your network about MPP person and NDC. I was so surprised that the outgoing government want to tie or create a certain conditions for the incoming government to fulfill before this mini budget is passed. That is no. I don't get it. Because if you look at the issue of tax waivers, who is dying that we need to waive taxes for him to survive? There are more, important issues we can deal with. And if the tax waivers are anything to go over, the next administration can look at it. So I am very much in support of those who argue that, yes, we can put this thing aside and then work on the budgets so that people will get paid and the rest of them. That is more critical. So for the gentleman to say that if you do ABC, we can also do this, is no. Parliament work based on consensus. So at all point in time, members are reminded that their work is based on consensus, and anything outside it will undermine the interests of the state. And I know they are much alive to this more than my good self. So they should do the needful and get the basics right.
Doc, a quick one. This 8th Parliament, especially because of its knife-edge majority and also a speaker coming from the other side, by the other side I mean the opposition, has been a bit rancorous. I feel Speaker Bagbin has been one of the finest because of having to manage this unprecedented situation. But that rancor, we still see it, even at the dying embers of this 8th Parliament. Do you think the 9th Parliament will be any better simply because one side is going to have an overwhelming majority? Do you think so?
Obviously, the numbers will also minimize the problem that we are having. Because if you want to drag your feet, to what extent can you do that? More so, as a minority group, I know that there are certain bills that you require by all means members of the minority to be part, particularly when you are dealing with finance and all that. But remember, if your numbers are small and you want to take certain intransigent position, obviously you are going to have your fingers burned and it's going to affect you. You need to be able to demonstrate leadership in Parliament so that you get the support. And by support, I mean that if your numbers are small, you rely more on the few people who are in Parliament and those outside Parliament. Remember when MPP and other 3 political parties boycotted the 1992 elections. When they went to Parliament in 1993, remember there was no opposition except 2 independent members of Parliament. But they work strongly from outside Parliament and people supported and all that. So if they're going to drag their feet and then play a game in such a way that is going to undermine the work of Parliament, the forces outside will always whip them to line.
Thank you for those thoughts. I'll just do these quickly, some foreign stories. Ukraine kills senior Russian general. Sources in Kiev say Ukraine killed a Russian general who died in an explosion in Moscow on Tuesday morning. I actually saw the BBC reporting on this at the very spot where he was allegedly killed. Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov was at the entrance to a residential block when a device hidden in an electronic scooter went off. Sources in the Ukrainian security services told the BBC Kirillov was a legitimate target. Now, why was he killed? He was accused of using chemical weapons in Ukraine. And that is why he was targeted. And that's quite a blow to Russia. 7.3 magnitude earthquake causes damage in Vanuatu, and a powerful magnitude 7.3 earthquake struck just off the coast of Vanuatu on Tuesday, causing widespread destruction in the South Pacific island nation as the injured began arriving at a hospital and unconfirmed reports of casualties emerged. If you'd like to grab further details, you can get into that story. I think I saw something on, well, there's an article. There's page 16. We are handing over strong economy, according to the finance minister. But the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has said that the claims by the finance minister and the president that they are handing over a strong economy are not factual, that they are baseless. That's what he has been saying. And page 17, post-election reflections, electoral competition and the future of Ghana's democracy. Page 19, electorate expects accountability. And now more than ever, I think politicians are realizing that you can't come and have a field day with the ordinary Ghanaian. You bit too simbre. You bit too sebayre. So if you come and you think you can toy with our mandate, we'll show you at the right time that we are the bosses of the game. Can I move on to the Daily Guide newspaper, or do you have a brief comment?
Let me touch on accountability story, then you can move on. Issue of accountability is critical in any governance process because people give you their mandate. You have to account for the stewardship of your office. Your actions, you have to explain. Even your inactions, they are all part. Remember, actions and inactions constitute what we call public policy. What government decide to do or not to do. So once you are the rep of government, your actions are as important as inactions, and you need to render the stewardship of your office. It's a normal practice. Right. It is no witch hunt. It is nothing more than what an accountability principle enshrined in our constitution and supported by the good governance concept.
Right. The Daily Guide newspaper, EC ballot boxes set on fire at Kwashiman School. We've already delved into that story. And that also reminds me, in the Ashanti region, there was another fire in a market with watermelon sellers, people who sell apples and grapes and all of that. I mean, this would be a crushing blow, especially at this time of year, where you want some nokofio to take care of the family, and this happens. But I also don't get the logic of fires. When I started working here at the multimedia group, some colleagues even teased me because I was out there reporting on a number of fires, starting from somewhere in Odona, and then you would go to Kantamanto and many other places. Every year, it's almost like a ritual. There must be fire in some marketplaces, and it's consistent practically every year. There are these fires. Don't we realize the situation, what is going on? Sometimes these markets are too compact, too many people, and the least bit, and you have a fire ravaging so much. I don't know. And then in the end, we'll say, oh, abaimbe buaye. But how can we keep on doing this? I don't get it. I don't. I simply don't get it. But anyway.
Those who manage these things on our behalf are sleeping on their jobs, simply so. Because if we are supposed to enforce the rule rigidly, we are not going to get some of these occurrences almost every year. No. They are simply sleeping on their jobs. That's all.
All right. Nana Outdoors new foreign affairs complex. Parliament House delay in 3-month budget approval threatens transition. We've delved into that, so I'll not go back there. GAF arrests, that's the Ghana Armed Forces, arrests protocol recruitment scammer. And this one is a major problem. I'll get into that story. But let me start from page 3. President Akufo-Addo has commissioned a newly constructed office complex annex at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Accra. Unveiling the office complex at a colorful ceremony yesterday, the president said it, quote, represents a bold statement of Ghana's devotion to fostering diplomacy and enhancing the capacity of our foreign service. It will provide the ministry with the facilities it needs to continue shaping and implementing Ghana's foreign policy effectively. As I cut the ribbon officially to commission this building, Let us rededicate ourselves to the service of our nation. Let this new facility inspire greater productivity, innovation, and a renewed sense of purpose. That's what Mr. President said in that regard, which also reminds me of what has happened in the sub-region in respect of the 3 countries that have broken away from ECOWAS, now becoming official. They are no longer members. They are seeking to trade among one another or themselves, trade among themselves. They are hoping to give visa-free travel among them. I think it's becoming problematic because ECOWAS, in fact, should have been doing some of these things that these 3 countries, though you can call them the problem children if you want, but they are doing certain things that ECOWAS should have done, you know, visa-free travel, ease of business. But trust me, sometimes it's just something else. Then let me go to that other story before I take your reactions. Page 6. That's where I will go now. The Ghana Armed Forces has arrested a man linked to a viral video in which he falsely presents himself as a soldier. The individual, identified as Alex Kobina, was filmed wearing a Ghana Navy vest and displaying military items while making alarming claims about the administration's intentions regarding military personnel. In the video, Kobina alleges that President-elect John Dramani Mahama plans to dismiss all soldiers recruited through protocol means. His claims have raised concerns within the military community and prompted further investigation. A press statement from the Ghana Armed Forces revealed that an investigation into Kobina's social media activity uncovered multiple videos of him wearing a military attire and falsely claiming to be a member of the armed forces. But I see a lot of these on social media, Facebook, and people purportedly recruiting. You would assume that people would see through it and realize they are fake. And even the added layer about dismissing, or that definitely can't be true. Any reactions?
Yes, I think I support the position of the Ghana Armed Forces, the right position to set the record straight. And I sometimes wonder why people will get the courage to, deceive public into believing that they are with that institution, which they are not.
And
it is an institution. Yes.
How did he get the attire, the uniform? How did he get the other tools that he was wielding, showing that he was a member of the armed forces or the Navy, when in fact he is not? We should ask all those questions.
Yeah, that's where the problem is. Is it so easy to be able to assess them? And from look of things, you realize that criminals now have found ways of getting these things. But I like the position of the armed forces. I'm sure they will extend the investigation into some of these things and deal with those criminals in there. If there are people in there who supply them, obviously they will be found out. I trust the armed forces. If you are close to the armed forces, you know what, when they are serious about something, you know what it means. But it should be a warning to the public that anybody who goes on that route, you'll be found out. It's just a matter of time. The issue of the new Foreign Affairs office complex, good thing. But as you rightly said, we want to see the ministry doing things that will bring honor and glory to our country and help us to stem the tide of all diplomatic problems that we have within the sub-region and beyond. We expect the ministry to continue to be a good ambassador of the country and to help us to deal with some of the lingering challenges that have so far bedeviled the sub-region and Africa in general.
Right. There's also the story on the international front. France National Assembly President reaffirms support for Morocco's sovereignty over Sahara, and I know that would be interesting to you, the Sahara area and time immemorial, the status. Then Pope Francis reveals 2 attempts on his life during 2021 visit to Iraq. There's also on the entertainment pages, God delayed my success for a purpose. That's according to Tiwa Savage. There's also Familia's management speaks after UK show mishap. And then restore water to Kumasi customers. PURC directs Ghana Water Company Limited. Did you get to hear of that story where some officials of the Ghana Water Company Limited in Kumasi were disgruntled, and they said that, you know, their building had been pulled down. Not their building, state building, by the way. And, you know, on the back of that, they shut water to the Kumasi area, and people were without water. It was a pretty weird development. I don't know whether you came across that story.
No, I'm not aware of that. But if that's the case, I mean, very, very wrong, because water is life. How do you deny people water?
Right.
I was always telling my students and that ever since I stepped foot in Accra here in 1986, most of the places I've lived, I've lived without water.
Yeah.
I mean, Dansuma those days, Adenta, and all that. And each of these places I live about 10 years, Dansuma 2 times 20 years, Adenta, and the rest of them. No water.
Yeah.
There was a time, you recall, Professor Mills was announcing that the Adenta problem relative to water was over, only to find out that water was a problem in Adenta and all that. We on a more serious note, we want our stakeholders, those who manage these things on our behalf, to be able to do the needful. People need water. I have seen certain places in Accra here where people are fetching water, strictly speaking, from gutters and all that.
Yeah.
And I've gone there to see it, and I said, come on, in this age and time, you don't expect this to be consumed by any human being, not even animals. So we must do the proper thing and get people water. People are ready to pay. If there are problems with the water distribution system, let's fix it. And now I will urge the government, the new government, to tackle the issue of Galamsey so that the effect of Galamsey on water will also be addressed.
Well, that's actually an issue we're discussing right here this morning. It's our first big story, and we'll be getting into that. The coalition against Galamsey and other moves. You remember the petition and that, in fact, the Galamsey Pact that Dr. Kenashigbe spearheaded. We'll be getting into those, details on the show this morning. So the conversation continues. The Daily Searchlight.
I'm not taking the wind out of your sail.
Right.
If that conversation, you realize that look at the voting pattern that occurred in Western Region, for instance.
Right.
The chiefs before the election assembled and told John Mahama that when you come, you must fix our water problem for us. It is affecting Pra and then eventually affecting the sea. We go to fishing, we get nothing. And you saw the voting pattern, 17 constituencies, MPP lost 15. One of the reasons would definitely be what Galamsey, which the government turn a blind eye to. That's the effects for that.
That would be an interesting prognosis, actually, because you speak to members of the MPP, and I remember interacting with Nana Komia, and he said, oh, well, we tried tackling Galamsey, and, there was pushback in the 2020 election. So it appeared the people were not in support of it, and because of that, we lost certain constituencies. So there was the rhetoric that leave them and let them do what they're doing, and that's how we'll secure votes. If that were true, they wouldn't have bled as badly in the Western
But
region.
that is a bad governance practice, because you should serve the public interest at all times. It doesn't matter the pushback. No.
Right.
Otherwise, there's no point giving our mandate to people to manage on our behalf. We can do it ourselves. But it's for a good reason that we give it to them and arm them with the power of making laws and enforcing them. That's state capacity relative to what? Regulatory capacity of the state. That I disagree.
All right. As we get ready to wind down, just some headlines. Mahama cancel betting tax now. Ashaiman youth demand. And scandal over 10,000 fiber optic cable cuts reported across Ghana. Veep Baumia to grace Parliament's Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols. That would be good. It would be good to see the second gentleman. I've not seen him in a while after the elections and after his concession. It would be good to see him, coming out again and moving on. President Albert Kwabena Dwumfour, a transformative leader in Ghanaian journalism. There's talk about that there as well. And then there's the overseer, an easy calm at Cocoa Marketing Company as pro-NPP officers push to maintain top positions. And December 7 was a people's revolution, Dr. Atto Forson says. No more fair weather friends. Mahama reflects on 2016 loss as lobbying for government positions intensifies. Do you have any thoughts on these? Fair weather friends,
Yes.
lobbying for positions, and then an easy calm at Cocoa Marketing Company as the paper alleges that pro-NPP officers push to maintain top positions. Your thoughts?
Yes, I'll look at the December 7 election, people's revolution, indeed. If you govern and you misgovern, people will tell you that power emanates from the people, not any government.
Right.
And that message the good people of this country send to this government, that enough of what the bad governance, enough of the public anger that they were creating and all that. And that, look, if you manage any public office, remember that the source of authority is the people. So if you shortchange the people and they get opportunity, they will show you the door. I am happy that the people of this country have taught this government this lesson. It should be a learning curve for future government so that anybody who crosses us will just keep quiet. Those who will talk, but on the day of election, you will see our anger.
All right. Daily analysts, we are handing over a strong economy, according to the finance minister. I'm still at post. Captain Koda clears the air. He is head of the president's security detail. Peaceful 2024 polls. NDC Deputy General Secretary commends police leadership. I'm talking about Mustafa Gbande. Mahama declares war on corruption. And Mr. President, let's do this. Ghana to lose 22 billion Ghana cedis in revenue. And I'm saying Mr. President-elect, actually, because I don't know how well corruption has been tackled in this current administration. And it's a wrap. Any final thoughts for us, Dr. Kwame Asante?
Yeah. Corruption is one of the problems that have been with us since time immemorial. And we try to deal with it. And in no time, we also suffer setbacks. Most of these problems have been self-inflicted. And we believe that if you have a government that has a political will, we should be able to at least reduce corruption to the barest minimum, if not to eliminate it at all. But governments have had field days, and they've not been able to handle this issue very well. And when you read Transparency International reports, it is inundated with, acts of corruption and all that. Please, as a new government, my advice to John Mahama and his team, that they should put their foot down and deal with corruption head on, and then leave something that the state can build on subsequently.
Doc, thank you for your time with us this morning. Thank you for having breakfast with us, and we wish you the best of the day.
I wish you a good day, sir.
All right. And that is Dr. Kwame Asante there. And of course, you also see in your short some interesting stories from myjoyonline.com. You can go on to that portal and check out some of those details. Dr. Kwame Asante is a political scientist. He's also head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Let me just sneak in this bit. Dear Apostle Wolanyo Kofi Agbo, a message that came through. Happy birthday from all of us at Royal House Chapel Spintex Revival. Today we celebrate not only the day you were born, but the profound impact you have made in our lives and in our community. As our head pastor, you have guided us with wisdom and strength. On this special day, we pray that God blesses you abundantly, granting you joy, peace, and renewed strength. With heartfelt blessings, the leadership and congregation of Royal House Chapel Spintex Revival. So, Apostle Wolanyo Kofi Agbo is from your church community. They are wishing you the very best on your birthday. Let me also finally leave you with this. Compu Ghana is celebrating you this Christmas. Now, get the best prices on premium brands like Samsung, LG, TCL, HP, Lenovo, Dell, Midea, Nasco, Tecno, Infinix, Itel, and many more. They have laptops, desktops, printers, TVs, air conditioners, fridges, home theaters, mobile phones, CCTV, and many more. Win instant gifts and cash prizes up to 2,000 Ghana cedis just for answering a question. Can you imagine that? This December, that's what Compu Ghana is giving you. Visit your nearest Compu Ghana branch nationwide or shop online at www.compugana.com. You can also call them on 0302 752 020 to make inquiries. Well, stay with us. Sports is up next. You don't want to miss it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftao Nabila Abdullah. The Member of Parliament for Ebuako South, Samuel Etachian, has called on the government of Ghana and the sporting federations to ensure that there is data supporting their calls for the development of sports in the country. Speaking on the floor of Parliament on Tuesday, he says that without data, there wouldn't be a proper management of Ghana's sporting sector.
Probably, we've not done a cost-benefit analysis as to how sports will add to our GDP. And it's important. If sports is just for entertainment, but it is not of serious economic value to this country, we will not use our meager resources for sports. So, Honorable Speaker, I am of the humble view that people are touting sports, underfunding of sports. It's about time that we have a blueprint and do proper cost-benefit analysis that apart from we exporting cocoa and apart from gold and the rest of them, there is a financial return if we should sink good money in the area of sports. And that is what we also inform governments to realize that there is another revenue stream, which is sports. And when you know it will benefit the nation in the long run, then investing in that place will make a lot of sense. So I am of the humble view that our sports people we want to make a fetish out of sports, and we go and we lose. The Black Stars are giving us a lot of pain and the rest of it. And the coaches are being underpaid, all kinds of challenges that we are facing. But if anything matters to us as a nation, and we want to invest properly in it, let's cost it. And let's see the return on the investment. Probably it will be a paradigm shift for this nation. If not, we will not even celebrate heroes any longer, because who is a hero if what he's trying to do does not benefit the entire nation?
Meanwhile, Ghana's record holder in the 100 meters, Benjamin Azamati, he's also called on government to invest in athletes. According to him, the most appropriate thing to do for the development of the sport in the country is to give them the right investment.
When you invest in the sport, obviously it's going to, yield results for the country. It's one way or the other put the country on the map, because you have a lot of people wide world who watch sports. I'm in athletics, and then of course when I go into the world stage, you have a lot of people watching. When you put on, the Ghana's jersey, you have a lot of people watching it. So I think when we put more into it, more into the sports, not focusing on just one sport, but, focusing more on also the lesser sports, I think that will do well, because there are a whole lot of talents in the country. And so focusing much on just one sport, I think, is going to hurt the country. And, having to prioritize other people than the rest, I think, wouldn't do much for the country. So I think trying to, invest into the sports is going to really benefit the nation.
And a lot, a new government is coming in, and it appears this message is coming at the right time, because the Member of Parliament is saying, look, in terms of revenue generation, sports could become our gold, even our cocoa.
Yeah, I think it's a good call by the Honorable MP. Sports is a multi-million industry. It's an industry that if we have a lot of professional athletes in Ghana here, they are going to take money outside and bring it to the country. They are going to pay tax. They are going to stay in our country and train. And then, most importantly, I think if we want to go by what he says we need to take the basic schools and then the high school sports serious. We need to find a way to commercialize the high school sports in particular, because when you see Ashanti region, they always have a full stadium when their schools are going on, the Spazonas are going on. You go Central region, Accra try to do something similar. I think we should look at those sides, and that is the places that are going to feed the universities, and that's the same place that is going to make the sports industrial in Ghana. And I wish, the incoming administration, listen to him and makes a change. Like Ben said, we don't need to just focus on just one sport. Every child in the country or every child has a unique talent that God has given us. So I believe that if we share the resources, even if not equally, but extend hands to all the sports, it will help the country.
The president of Ghana Athletics, Abba Hussein, says that preparations for LA 2028 should start now. According to him, some federations have already started preparing their athletes for the Olympic Games, which will be happening in the US. And he's called on government to ensure that Ghana Athletics also starts preparing its athletes as soon as possible.
My goal for Ghana Athletics, as I indicated during my inaugural speech, that I still believe that, and I still have the hope that Ghana Athletics will win an Olympic medal during my term of office. I still have that belief, and I'm working seriously towards that. What I can just say to the current government or the state of Ghana is that people have started putting money or started preparing for the Los Angeles 2028. We should not wait till 2028 that we're struggling to see whether we'll qualify or will not qualify. An Olympic medal or World Championship medal is not won in a year. Preparations start now. And the preparation should not be left for the federations. The state has the stakes in how national team prepare for the Olympic Games. Olympic Game is so huge that if we leave it for federations to prepare for it, we will never get there. The federation can get the athletes. The federation can get the coaches. But the federation will lack the financial muscle to be able to get the athlete to where the athletes want to be. Australia, they are doing it. UK, they are doing it. Kenya, they are doing it. Why can't we do that? So our preparation for the Olympic 2028 should start 2025. Not only by word, but it should also be by deed. If the state of Ghana give her resources, Ghana like to give her resources every year, between $500 to $1 million a year, I can guarantee it that 2028 Ghana will win a medal at the Olympic Games.
Is that a message to the incoming government?
I'm referring to the state of Ghana.
Now, let's go to the camp of the Black Galaxies. They are preparing for their CHAN qualifier against Nigeria. That match will be happening at the Accra Sports Stadium on Sunday, December 22. And head coach of the team, Didier Dramane, says that they are putting final touches to ensure that they secure qualification to the tournament.
We pick both the positive sides and then the areas that needs attention. And the areas that needs attention is exactly what we are doing. We are doing the refining. We are refining every processes of what we have. We try to just do some maintenance in terms of the physical part of it, because they are already in season. And we try to take care of those who are already highly exhausted in terms of their loading. Players like Amwa, for instance, when you see how he worked himself in the game against House of Folk, how Asari Benjamin worked himself for House of Folk on Sunday against Kotoko. So you try to help them in terms of their recovery. And then you try to up those who didn't play games much, like players like Jerry Free, and those who played on Saturday. Then you know that I can push them. And so we started yesterday, and so far it's going very, very well. And we continue like this, and these are the moments when we can push the training higher, today and tomorrow. But from Thursday, then we try to bring everything down and getting ready for Sunday. We are physically, technically, and tactically well-oriented. And once the days comes by, we still continue to refine and then to do the small adjustments and give the alternatives in the game. And so I'm very positive that come Sunday, we should be fully ready. As for preparation, we are okay. We are already there, but we have to be ready for the game. I think they should come in their numbers. They should keep supporting us. As we have said, this process is our recall of our domestic competition structure and our, reorganization of our football. And I believe that these boys are going to bring something that is very unique in the way we want to play.
In a world where the effects of climate change are increasingly evident, small actions can make a big difference. A recent report by UN Environment suggests that simply switching from driving to cycling for 5 short trips each week can drastically reduce an individual's carbon footprint, cutting emissions by 86 kilograms annually. But here in Bolgatanga, one man is taking it a step further.
We are encouraging more people to ride bicycles as their means of transport. In that, we are hoping to cut down carbon emissions. We all know that air pollution is one thing that we are battling with. Climate change has really caught up with us, and
Meet James Company, a passionate cyclist and environmental advocate who has turned his love for biking into a mission. For the past 3 years, James has been leading a growing cycling movement in his region, aiming to reduce emissions, promote healthier and greener lifestyles.
What inspired me to start riding is that initially I used to ride for fun and then to keep fit, but then as I was on the bike, some ideas keep on coming. So the idea of how to use a bicycle to bring societal change came to my mind. So I began thinking how I can use the bicycle to bring societal change. So the idea came, then I began riding for a cause.
James' efforts are paying off. His cycling team has grown steadily, and more people in the region are embracing cycling not just for leisure, but as a practical and sustainable way of getting around. Amos and Agana are members of James' team.
Economically, it has been of great importance, and looking at aside the economic aspect, we can also look at the physical aspect of cycling. It is a source of what? Exercise, which keeps us fit. And aside that, cycling is a source of joy. It gives you motivation. As you cycle, you visit so many areas at low cost, and then you are motivated or excited. It can help you to reduce your stress.
Okay, it's a very simple thing. People have been seeing us riding bicycles to Napungu, Paga, everywhere. You can go as far as you can go with bicycles. So I advise people not to be using motors or cars to short distance. Okay, so we always call the community and our people around us always to educate them, talk to them about how to use the bicycles, the difference between vehicle and bicycles, to reduce the smoke.
So for me, I saw that if people begin to embrace the bicycle as a means of transport, they would, in fact, we are going to reduce the carbon emissions that we have in the atmosphere.
James' dedication to his cause goes beyond the region. In April 2024, he rode an incredible 815 kilometers from Bolgatanga to Accra, raising awareness about reducing carbon footprint and the power of sustainable transportation. In July 2024, James organized the Ride Bolga campaign, a 20-kilometer cycling event that brought together locals for a fun and impactful ride. The event was a resounding success, showing just how much interest there is in adopting cycling as a mode of transport.
My biking has brought a lot of impact. So after we made some rides to Accra, that's 815 kilometers, and came back. People now have begun buying bicycles in the township here. Yes, I have many more people who used not to ride now riding to work and then other places. Some of them even ride and snap and post on their social media, you know, and then they talk about bicycle challenge. So yes, there's so much impact in my cycling because I've used it to reach out to many people and encourage many people to ride. So we have a lot of people in town here who now ride bicycles, and then they park their motors and then their cars to engage the bicycles for other things that they would have probably used cars. So yes, there's so much impact me and my team have brought.
However, despite the growing enthusiasm for cycling, there are challenges. Active mobility in Ghana still faces significant barriers, including inadequate infrastructure.
Our road is not really friendly for cycling. We do not have dedicated lanes for cycling. We share the road with other road users such as these heavy trucks, which cause so much danger to us as cyclists. So it's a big challenge for us. The road is not friendly at all because we don't have dedicated cycling lanes.
Our bicycle riding, we always have a big problem with the big trucks. You know, these cargoes and other trucks that we have been moving on the road, it's always like we are challenging. So we are just appealing to the assemble and their people to look into our roads and see how they can make separation for the bicycle riders and the vehicles and other movement to make everything simple for us.
So in the design of our routes, when the urban planners are designing our routes, for example, if you go to the Netherlands, you see that the Netherlands have roads specially made for people riding the bicycles.
Engineer Dr. Mary Enchi is the head of department at the Environmental Management at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
If we can also design our roads in such a way that we can have avenues prepared for people riding these bicycles, it will be the best way to help us as a country. So the environmental benefits of this cycling, that we will have less vehicles moving on our roads, because there's no way a bicycle will be producing pollutants like the carbon monoxide from the exhaust to destroy the environment. Okay, and in a way that we have gone to COP29, everybody is trying to see, oh, how do we come in as a nation to reduce our carbon production and all that. If at all, well, when it comes to the agricultural activities, they have their own way to manage their soils, to manage their pesticides and all that, to curb the carbon dioxide emission. But then, in the road infrastructure and as environmental management, we feel that when we have reduced vehicles, and then the more people are using them, health-wise, it helps you to exercise. Now, most people somebody can be living as close as just a kilometer away from the workplace, and the person will be driving in the air-conditioned car straight to the office with an air condition moving. All these things impact negatively on our health.
The road ahead may be challenging, but James and his team remain undeterred. They are committed to continuing their efforts to reducing the region's carbon footprint and encourage others to join the movement.
The long-term plan is that we intend to continue the climate action agenda. Yes, that's to save the planet. And also one thing we're looking at is that in the long term, we're looking at how we can provide or collaborate and partner with people to provide bicycles for those who cannot afford them, especially school kids.
As the call for cleaner and healthier cities grows louder, James Company and his cycling team are riding towards a brighter and cleaner future, one pedal at a time. In Bolgatanga, the wheels of change are in motion. Will other cities follow? Only time will tell. A report by Mohamed Nuruddin.
Welcome back. This is the AM show. Have you thought of an ideal Christmas present? Well, make Syntex Tank the perfect Christmas present in all your homes. This Christmas, ho, ho, ho. Gift the Syntex Tank to your family to give your family access to clean water. It's not just for Christmas, it's for a lifetime. No matter where you are in the country, just call 0244 335 168 0244 335 168 and we will make it happen. So don't make it rice, don't make it oil, the usual stuff. Make it Syntex Tank. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. Well, we're going to be having a tough conversation this morning because there is a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Esaba Tokonu. Article 146(1) of our Constitution has what it says about the removal of a Chief Justice and, in fact, other members of the judiciary. But why? What has triggered this petition by Professor Kweku Asare? Well, we'll get into the details with our guest, Amanda Clinton. She joins the conversation. She is a lawyer. Amanda, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you one more time on the AM show. Let's start from here. Were you surprised? Were you taken aback when you saw this petition?
I wasn't surprised given the political climate, and it seemed that, with a change of government coming, it was obvious that some heads would have to roll potentially.
Some heads would have to roll, but there's security of tenure when it comes to the judiciary, especially in the case of the Chief Justice, the justices of the higher courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court. They have security of tenure, and it's only retirement, usually, that would force them out, unless some egregious activity has been engaged in, for which reason they may merit being removed from office. So I don't know, when you say with the change of a regime, you probably would expect a change in those as well. What is the basis for saying that?
Well, I think that Professor Asare has gone to great lengths to present his petition in stating, alleged stated misbehavior and incompetence. And he does so because it is accepted that this is a role that one cannot get, rid of the person. As, the Attorney General you can get rid of at the end of the term because it's a change of government. This is not that kind of role unless exceptional circumstances exist. And so the professor seems to have outlined some 3 key areas that the Chief Justice shouldn't have had a direct role in recommending individuals for appointment or promotion, and he does so paragraph 23. He also says that, she appeared to be reconstituting panels in terms of, Supreme Court panels for particular cases with no explanation and no public interest. He says so at paragraph 24. And he also highlights that in terms of practice directions issued, they were neither issued by the Rules of Court Committee or by constitutional instruments. And that's at paragraph 48. I don't agree with him in relation to the amount of judges because I think
So let's take it step by step. I've got the portions that you made mention of, but I also want us to, if possible, splash the petition on the screen so that our viewers can also, follow along with us as I read certain portions. But I'll just start reading. So it talks about, it's dated yesterday. It's addressed to His Excellency, the President of the Republic at the Jubilee House. And it reads, petition for the removal of the Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Her Ladyship Gertrude Saki Tokonu, pursuant to the provisions of Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And I'll just read a few choice portions before we get into the salient matters, the nitty-gritty. Now, Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, a citizen of the Republic of Ghana, respectfully submits this petition to Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, seeking the removal of Her Ladyship Gertrude Saki Tokonu, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, on grounds of 1, stated misbehavior, and 2, incompetence. stated misbehavior, and incompetence. Then he says, the legal basis for my petition is Article 146(1) of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. For the avoidance of doubt, my petition focuses on stated misbehavior and incompetence related to the Chief Justice's administrative functions as head of the judiciary responsible for its supervision and administration under Article 1254 of the Constitution. He adds, my petition, and I'm just giving those salient bits as a background so that we understand from there as we lay the foundation. My petition does not arise from the Chief Justice's exercise of her judicial functions. So administrative functions, not judicial functions. Then he goes on to say, let me just get back to where I was. Yes. Accordingly, the petition does not challenge any decisions, orders, or directives issued by the Chief Justice in the performance of her duties as a Justice of the Supreme Court, including those made to enforce judgments, decrees, or orders in cases she has adjudicated. I fully understand, respect, and value the importance of decisional independence. It is my understanding that upon receipt of this petition, Your Excellency shall, and we know when legally shall is used, what it means, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom you shall appoint as chairman, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers, and that is referencing Article 1466 of the 1992 Constitution. And it goes on and on. I think I've laid enough of a background to this matter, though he goes on to talk about inquiring into the petition and recommending whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office on the grounds of this petition. Now we can continue with the other salient points. So this is the thrust of the petition as far as a basis is concerned. Stated misbehavior and incompetence. Now back to your point. You were saying that you disagreed on some points.
Yes, I do. I mean, the professor, of course, makes a very strong submission based on brazen constitutional violations, abuse of office, reconstitution of panels and transfer of judges, as well as disrepute and, conflict of interest, as well as acts of incompetence, etc. And he will have to make a strong case because it is not taken lightly that a Chief Justice can be removed. I don't believe that she will be removed under this current administration because, although we do have the separation of powers, it seems by public opinion and by the strength of this petition, the petition is being brought because it hints that there wasn't too much separation of powers in terms of how much the executive have an influence, etc. But in fairness to the Chief Justice, who I greatly respect, in fairness to her, I think she has had a very difficult time just because of the heavy influence of the executive. And in some instances, she has shown exceptional leadership. For instance, with this court case that happened, or with the Supreme Court cases on the 5 judges, yes, they did rule that the seats shouldn't be vacated. But if you analyze the ruling more, the subtlety of the ruling showed that there were no court orders attached. So although it seems that there was a lot of pressure on the judiciary, the fact that for the final order they didn't attach any orders and didn't compel the Speaker to act just shows perhaps the climate of pressure, and yet she, in that instance, chose to not attach any orders, which is something that we could give her. On the one hand, I mean, I don't agree with the professor about the choosing of or the letter that she wrote to the president, or 2 letters she wrote, and she had been told that, this should have been done in consultation, and, the letters she wrote didn't hint that she'd already sort of taken a decision. It kind of made it seem like it was just the president's idea. I don't think that would be strong enough
which
to stand.
would then insinuate or suggest undue influence from the end of the executive on the judiciary, countering the angle of judicial independence and the separation of powers. That is where the problem is.
Well, that is what the professor is saying the problem is. But as we all know, you know, you do need to give a summary of who this judge is and what their qualities are, etc. So she could have overstepped her boundaries in that sense. But again, you know, she's also giving a summary of who these judges are. Where she might not be able to win in terms of, you know, should a panel be convened, etc. Where I think she's going to struggle very much is this reconstituting of panels with no explanation and no public interest, because he really does cite some very strong cases that I think he's made the case. You know, so I wouldn't go about with the Supreme Court, I mean, with the justice's recommendation, but I would say that, you know, it was arbitrary, perhaps, it could be said, in terms of her decision to reconstitute panels when it was practically in the middle of the trial. I don't think the current president will look at this petition. Maybe he'll make excuses that, you know, his term is nearly ended, etc. But the next administration would certainly look at such a petition, even if it is presented by another person or the same person. And in all fairness, it does look like she will be removed based on the fact that the reconvening of panels, it would appear to be unconstitutional from the facts the professor gives and from the constitutional citations he makes.
Okay, so pause for me right there, Amanda. You say on the back of the reconstitution, it does look probable that she could be removed. Of course, here we are not serving as a court. Of course, you are espousing your opinion and you are espousing whether you think there could be evidence that suffices to remove her. Mind you, these sessions will be held in camera, by the way. She could choose her own legal representation or otherwise. But I just want to reiterate, are you suggesting that on that point, she could be removed on that point? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, she could, because, for instance, if we go to paragraph 37 of the petition, where he cites that lawyer Samuel Kudjo objected, and this is in relation to the Dr. Opuni appeal. He says at paragraph 37 that lawyer Samuel Kudjo objected to the new panel, citing Article 1573 of the Constitution, which stipulates that a judge or panel cannot withdraw from a case after hearing arguments until judgment is delivered. And yet we saw that, you know, she seemed to think that she had the administrative authority to reconstitute a panel in that case.
Right.
He also goes on at paragraph 40 to state that the power to dispense with court panels at will is not only unknown to the Constitution, but it is also anachronistic, antithetical to the judicial norms, makes the judicial system susceptible to the abuse of powers, and erodes public confidence in the judiciary as an independent arbiter of disputes. So he's not questioning the end decision she's making, but he's questioning whether, looking at this, could it be considered misbehavior, incompetence, and perhaps just taking her own authority, which again, you know, a panel will have to decide on.
Right. Just a quick one. When you go to the end of it, he also talks about, we consider the reconstitution of panels to be beyond the Chief Justice's administrative power and amounts to a direct interference with the impartiality and independence of duly constituted judicial panels. What is your take on this? Because that is... there's a nexus between this comment and what you just said and what he's basically positing in terms of why the Chief Justice should be removed. What do you make of this? Going forward, is it what we should adopt? Is it what doesn't already exist? Because it seems to be trite knowledge, but then again, this is the Chief Justice, and some bending could be done. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think he's absolutely right. For instance, every court case that goes, that happens, it is a fair process in terms of they don't care what the case is, etc. It just gets assigned to judges, and that's a fair process because it's just naturally assigned to judges. And so once you have a case in action, and it seems that the case is perhaps not going a particular way that maybe some people would expect, and then you have this sudden, repaneling of then that's where the problem lies, because it almost suggests that will that second judge be more aligned to a particular political sentiment, etc. So just for the avoidance of doubt, once a case is in action, if it's not in public interest and it hasn't been justified in terms of why you're reconvening, which is what he's saying, there was no public interest involved and the decision was just taken by herself, then it's going to be tough for her to argue, but she will be given right of audience in order to respond as to why she took that decision. And she may very well say public interest or give another reason.
All right. Let me state clearly, again, we are not a court here. We are not hanging the Chief Justice. We're just talking about the salient matters in there. Of course, a committee of inquiry will be set up if the president is minded to do so, and the law stipulates what must be done in instances like this. I mean, the OSP, for example, went through a similar system when a petition was brought for his removal, and ordinarily, this should not even be in the public foray, but it has come to us, and of course, we're going to discuss it. But then, such a session, if constituted, will be held in camera. I want to know what your reaction is on that very point, because when you read points 11 and 12 of the petition, it says, the grave nature of the Chief Justice's role in requesting the appointment of the said justices to the Supreme Court became evident when subsequently social media published another letter dated the 7th of February 2024 from the Chief Justice to Your Excellency. And of course, he's addressing the president directly because the petition is to him. The letter of 7th February 2024 is captioned, Brief on the need for the minimum number of 20 judges on Ghana's Supreme Court bench. In the said letter, the Chief Justice states that, quote, and sick, I write in reference to our previous discussion on the Chief Justice's proposal for an increase in the number of justices of the Supreme Court of Ghana. Kindly find attached the paper justifying the need for the request. Thank you very much. And Prof goes on to say, Professor Asari, the above quotation suggests that there has been a previous discussion on the subject between the Chief Justice and the President. Of concern to your petitioner, that is Professor Asari, is the fact that both letters, one proposing an increase in the minimum number of justices on the Supreme Court of Ghana, and the other requesting 5 specific, I'm mentioning words, highlighting words intentionally, because those are the key words, 5 specific judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court were written on the letterhead of the Chief Justice and clearly expressed itself as the Chief Justice's personal request on the matter. The letter did not refer to any consultation or involvement of the Judicial Council, that is, the Council, of which the Chief Justice is a member and within whose constitutional mandate it lies to deal with matters relating to the appointment of justices of the Supreme Court. I'll just do this final bit. 15 then says, your petitioner is further concerned by the reference to an earlier discussion between the Chief Justice and Your Excellency, the President, on the proposal to increase the number of justices on the Supreme Court. Your petitioner also notes that the question of minimum number of justices on the Supreme Court is settled by Article 1281 of the Constitution, which provides that, and I quote, the Supreme Court shall consist of the Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. Is this angle of Professor Asari's conversation watertight? He mentions the Constitution and the stipulation, not less than 9, but we don't have a cap either. So whether 20 or whichever, though reference is made to that number, doesn't necessarily suggest a wrong committed?
I don't think it does, because even though that was the heading she gave in terms of, the minimum amount required, she also goes on to state in those letters, for instance, that because, they're inundated with cases, etc., more justices would be needed. So in a practical sense, she's outlining why more justices are needed. And I think Professor Asari at paragraph 19 also says that in writing these letters, her ladyship gave the impression that the names presented to the council for approval emanated from your excellency, which then would mask her role in requesting for the appointment of the judges. So although it seems
and let's pause right there. How problematic would it be if, in fact, let's join to 19. I'll go back to 19, but let's join, is it 16? Is it 16, 17 to 19? So that it makes a lot more sense put together. The plain meaning of Article 1281 is that the minimum number of justices for the Supreme Court is 10. That is 9 in addition to the Supreme, the Chief Justice. Thus, an amendment of the Constitution is the lawful way to change the minimum, not by a private discussion or communications between the Chief Justice and the President. It is Parliament that has the power to amend the Constitution, Article 289 of the 1992 Constitution. And he says, further, your petitioner has reliable information that at a meeting of the Judicial Council held on 14th June 2024, the Chief Justice expressed her desire to increase the number of Supreme Court justices, whereupon the Council advised her ladyship to pursue broader consultations with other institutions on the matter, especially the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. At the said council meeting, the Chief Justice did not disclose the fact that her desire to increase the number of Supreme Court judges had been the subject of a previous discussion and a communication with Your Excellency. Do you get the point there? So she did not disclose at this meeting that, in fact, there had been some prior meeting with His Excellency, the President. This fact became evident only after the letter dated the 7th of February 2024 from the Chief Justice to Your Excellency appeared on social media. It follows from these facts that the Council had no knowledge or involvement. It goes on. And then you can marry it to 19, what you're stating now, where he says, in any event, your petitioner has reliable information, that is, Prof. Asari, has reliable information that on the 24th of June 2024, the Council met once again, and her ladyship then presented the names of the 5 justices for the Council's approval. In so doing, her ladyship gave the impression that the names presented to the Council for approval emanated from Your Excellency, which then would mask her role in requesting the appointment of the judges. Back to you.
Yes, but again, perhaps that's why he's a professor and not in practice, because in practice, one would sort of understate the president's involvement in this. Because, for instance, when you're presenting a petition to the president, is the president likely to implicate himself by saying, oh, yes, she really shouldn't have had those discussions with me, and then I took a decision on this, etc. You see what I mean? So there's a bit of a subtlety in practice of,
where the subtlety in practice means what? A deviation from what the letter of the law states in terms of procedure? Does it give malleability?
For instance, is the president with this petition that implicates him, at least twice, likely to refer this to the Council of State? Is it human nature to do that? Do you see what I mean? So, on a practical level, all I'm saying is that it's a very strong petition, but it is likely to be dealt with by another administration who might look at this, from standing back looking at this. But if he's basically implicated the president and said, well, she had private discussions with you and then, you know, went to go and present this letter as if, you know, it was coming from you. Do you know what I mean? It will be very difficult, I think, for the current president to refer this letter to the Council of State, just because in a way he's implicated. I also
but the law states when these petitions come through what processes ought to follow, which is why I'm also referencing what happened with the special prosecutor and when there was a petition against him. And indeed, the processes went through, but he was found not to have breached, you know, what was said of him, which would warrant any removal of that instance. Anyway, let me also, but Amanda, just hold for me.
I don't think he will hang her on this because it would be unfair, since it would be suggested that perhaps, you know, there was a lot of influence. And so then you can't just leave her hanging and saying that, you know, she should be referred. I do think this petition has a lot of strength when it comes to reconstituting panels, and that perhaps the subsequent administration would definitely look at this as well as, you know, refer it to the Council of State. But in my opinion, I don't think this president will address this petition, no.
Hold for me, Amanda. We have Frank Davies. He's a lawyer. He joins the conversation. Mr. Davies, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Davies. Do we have Frank Davies on the line? Hello, sir.
Hello. Good morning,
okay,
Ivan.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, there seems to be a bit of an echo. I don't know where you are, but if you could just reposition yourself. Hello, sir.
Yeah, is it better now?
It is. Thank you. Thank you. Much better. I'm sure you've cited this petition calling for the removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Isaba Saki Tokonu. And I would just like to find your brief thoughts about the petition and how worthy it is, how much weight it carries. That is, if you've read the entirety of the petition, before we move on.
Thank you very much. And once again, a very pleasant morning to your cherished viewers and listeners, and thanks for the opportunity. Yes, I saw it very late last night, and I decided to read all. It's about 100 and almost 19 paragraphs, if I'm not mistaken. But look, Ivan, I mean, Professor Azar has been in the legal space for quite a reasonable period of time now, and he's a trained lawyer too, and of course, it is his constitutional right. If he thinks that the Chief Justice has done something which, in his estimation, warrants impeachment or removal from office, this is cause to carry. I mean,
you sound as though you fundamentally disagree.
The reasons are one of stated misconduct, and then the second one is incompetence. So,
stated misbehavior.
It is early days yet. I certainly cannot pass judgment on what he has put out. I've read the whole petition. He makes a lot of allegations or accusations, whatever you tell it, and you know it is not just a catch and buy situation. I mean, we know what we have to go through, also the way that the threshold where a prima facie case will be made before.
Right.
So let's see how it rolls out.
And I get that point you make. Of course, you must establish a prima facie case before you know proceedings can follow. You must show that on the face of it there is enough substance to go into the matter. Now, I am glad you have read the entirety of the the petition, and I want to ask you, if you look at point 20, he makes mention of the fact that the Constitution requires the President to act on the advice of the Council in consultation with the Council of State when nominating Supreme Court judges for parliamentary approval. the Chief Justice's elaborate scheme, he calls it scheme, of requesting the president to appoint specific judges and later presenting these names for the council's approval subverts the constitutional scheme and converts, and you understand, I mean, you're a lawyer, so you know what conversion here means, both the council and the president into rubber stamping her preferred judges. As it turned out, this scheme was fortuitously undone by the council's concern about the timing of the nominations. When the petition is being considered at any stage, members of the Judicial Council will be subpoenaed to testify on the matter. So let's stick to this angle for now. He talks about the fact that there had been prior conversations, about twice, with His Excellency the President, before the communication came to the President or from the President to her, and then the other processes were triggered. He's basically talking about breaches in process and how, as we all know, it appears in this instance, the processes were being subvented and her will, through the President, was being done. What do you make of this?
This
is Benjamin, by the way. My name is Benjamin Akakpo.
Oh, Benjamin, sorry. Your voice just sounds like you want sorry.
Yeah, people say that.
Benjamin.
Right.
Why don't you get that referral? Don't people tell you that your voice?
I get it all the time.
Anyway, well, these matters have been in the public domain for quite some time now. It's not new. And, I mean, the Chief Justice has given a reaction when the matter cropped. And even the Attorney General of the Republic presented a paper on the matter. At our just ended bar conference, the President spoke to the issue. So I don't want to be seen to be commenting on what is before the President. The petition has been sent. I can only talk on the general, not the specifics. This is the allegation he's making. It is up to the President to do the needful. And like I said, at the end of it all, there has to be a determination of the Premier Facie case before even the Lady Chief Justice will be called upon to provide her response. So I wouldn't want to be judgmental. I have my own views about the matter, but I think that it's too early for me to be passing comments on the matter, which is before the President.
Okay, so I completely understand. Before you take leave of us, though, the other angle to this has to do with the arbitrary reconstitution of panels and transfer of justices. And let me just say that I completely understand why you don't want to go into the substance of some of the matters, because the prima facie case must be established before even other processes follow. But on the arbitrary reconstitution of panels and transfer of justices, you've read it already, so I will not belabor the point. He also says, Professor Asari says, we consider the reconstitution of panels to be beyond the Chief Justice's administrative power and amounts to a direct interference with the impartiality and independence of duly constituted judicial panels. So like he said, he's not questioning her judicial, work. He's questioning her administrative work. Do you think this portion, even as it stands, some say it is clear enough. Is it clear enough, or do we need to tweak it to suit this? Reconstitution of panels to be beyond the Chief Justice. Your brief take on that, and then we can hang it up.
Honestly, when I read that part, I must confess to you, I was a bit confused. I mean, if we all agree that the constitution of a panel of the bench of the Supreme Court is the prerogative, administrative prerogative of the Chief Justice, I mean, what will go into a positive determination that a reconstitution of the panel is arbitrary, or it's been done without recourse to lay down principles, or that the Chief Justice, as it were, has been subjective and not objective in determination of who should constitute a panel. You see, we shouldn't stretch these matters to any elastic limits. Okay? If we all agree that it is an administrative function, and the next thing is to interrogate why the reconstitution.
Right, but you say we shouldn't stretch. You say we shouldn't stretch this to its maybe logical limit. But could these powers, if not curtailed or controlled, lead to abuse, which could favor one side over another? Would you say yes or no?
Now, how is it going to be curtailed? Unless there's a redefinition of the Chief Justice's administrative function. But time would, all over these years, the Chief Justice, who is the head of the judiciary and who is the president of the bench of the Supreme Court, has been responsible. Every Chief Justice has been responsible for constitution and reconstitution of panels. So I don't see how that of Her Ladyship Justice Takono becomes novel. Unless maybe my good friend Professor Azar can adduce other pieces of evidence which shows that she was arbitrary, she was capricious, she was unfair, and she applied the good judgment in what she did. But at this stage, it's too early for anybody to surmise or think that the Chief Justice has been untoward in her administrative functions. If she has the prerogative and the discretion to do that, the next one is to question what she did and to interrogate and see whether what she did was right or wrong. But that on itself, that bare assertion, cannot lead to any impeachment procedures, in my humble submission.
All right. He goes on to reference the Opuni trial and previous, of course, incidents about reconstitution and the abuse of the same bit. But let me just ask you before you take leave of us. So in addition to your final words on this matter, and while you don't want to give a verdict, Amanda Clinton on the other end says there could be some case for her removal. Is that to say
there could be what?
There could be some case for her removal. Is that to say that for you, from where you sit, having read the entirety of the document, you see no such case?
Well, I'm not Amanda Clinton.
I'm asking for your opinion. I only reference that.
Yeah, I'm saying that is a determination. All I've said is that it is early days here at the I cannot be judgmental on the petition which is before the president. And we all know as lawyers that a premier facie case will have to be made before the case is made against her. So if anybody should say at this stage that she has a case to answer, that is the person's opinion. I am saying that for now, there's a petition. It has to go through a process. And then a determination is made. And she will be called upon to answer. No, I cannot, on radio or sitting anywhere, say that a strong case has been made against her. She has not been given the opportunity, if it comes to that state, for her to say otherwise.
Right.
So why would anybody say that a strong case has been made against her? Which case?
No, she didn't say that a strong case had been made against her. I could allow her to clarify. All she was saying was that on some of the points, maybe there could be the possibility of that. But
that is why I'm saying that an allegation has been made.
Okay.
Whether factual or infactual is another matter. So why don't we wait for the processes to roll? Once upon a time, the same petition was brought against the special prosecutor. People make all manner of kinds of comments.
Right.
What happened at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So, let's just relax.
Right. And I referenced the special prosecutor in this. So logically, just to leave us, what processes will the president have to execute now that the petition is in his hand? Ordinarily, it shouldn't be out for us to discuss it, and even the process would have to be held in camera. But it is out now. We are discussing it. What next for the president to do in respect of the petition?
Benjamin, the president of this republic has done this over and over again. Let us wait for him to do what he's doing. Yeah? He has done this over and over again. This is not the first petition which has been brought before him.
Just walk us through the processes.
I recall that of Charlotte Osei, and I recall that of the special prosecutor. And so, let's wait. The president will do what he has to do. I cannot be seen to be speaking for the president. So, the petition is before him.
Hold for me, just in case Amanda has any clarity. Amanda, do you have any clarity on the point I made? I just want you to say it before maybe Frank Davis takes leave of us. Amanda.
The point is the procedure, as in what's going to happen next?
No, on the point of what you had said, that there could be reason for her removal.
Well, again, this is a professor who's written a very strong paper that, on the face of it, he's justified with constitutional provisions, citing cases, as well as, citing what lawyer Samuel Cudjoe objected to in the Oponi appeal, citing Article 157, subsection 3 of the Constitution, which stipulates that the judge or panel cannot withdraw from a case after hearing arguments until judgment is delivered. You know, so sort of these are sort of questions that the Chief Justice might have to respond to, should she give a defense for this. And ultimately, this is a question of reconstituting panels with no explanation and no public interest, as he cites at paragraph 24. So again, it is for her to answer the question, is there an explanation and was there public interest involved, etc. But again, this is not a court of law. We're all just sort of giving our opinions on a very strongly and very well-written petition, which may or may not stand. Due process has to take place, and the Chief Justice's words have got to be heard in terms of her response and her defending herself, because she's a very capable, very competent Chief Justice, and this petition is before the President.
Okay. Frank Davies, thank you so much for your time with us this morning, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you.
All right. And that is Frank Davies. He's a lawyer. Amanda, do you have any final words before we proceed? I asked Frank Davies about the processes. Yes, he mentions Charlotte Osei, the former EC boss or chairperson. He mentions the special prosecutor. But what are the expectations from your end now that the petition is out?
I mean, this is a far better petition than those petitions which I also read. It's better in terms of the lengths the author has gone to in terms of bringing out constitutional provisions, bringing out case law, citing examples, and sort of harmonizing the document in a practical sense, which will give any, panel, any Council of State panel, enough to work on in terms of, should she be called before them, they will have a lot to question her on. So I think this is a stronger petition that can potentially be justified. But again, I don't think under this political climate in terms of this government, they are going to perhaps take this forward. That's just my opinion. I think perhaps the next administration might look more keenly as to whether the case of stated misbehavior and incompetence has been proven. And, it'll be a shame because she's a great Chief Justice in terms of absolute confidence and ability. But again, she was put in a very tight position. And this is why, as the professor and everybody else will tell you, we have the separation of powers in this country so that the executive does not have an influence on the judiciary. Judiciary does not feel forced to act to a certain extent, and that the Speaker of Parliament can be left alone.
Okay.
And this is what happens. This melting pot is what happens when people overreach, etc.
Right. And maybe not just influence, but undue influence. But thank you, Amanda Clinton, for joining the conversation as well. Amanda Clinton is also a lawyer and head of her chambers. Thank you for joining the conversation. So we had Amanda Clinton and lawyer Frank Davies joining this conversation. We're going to take a breather. I'll be telling you about the Medicas Hospital shortly, but we're going to take a breather. And when we return after the break, we'll be talking Galamsey. Now, there are many who have said that, listen, you are the incoming president. When you come, we want more action on Galamsey. That petition has been signed onto by some of the political leaders. But what are your expectations? After the break, we'll be hearing from people like you on what you expect of the incoming administration. But before that, your health is your wealth. Medicas Hospital, a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind. And they have spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. And they have assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine led by Dr. Yao Safo, the drive-time doctor, to serve you. They offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics, gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, they have on offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. And to boot, a 24-hour pharmacy ensuring you'll always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicine. And they're bringing to you the most powerful medicine of all, simple human kindness and empathy. They pride themselves on holding themselves to the highest attainable standards, and they accept all forms of payment. So don't worry if you have private health insurance. They will come through for you on that as well. Locate Medicas Hospital at number 10 Kinto Street near the Ashale Boche School Junction. You can reach them on 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. On social media at Medicas GH. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. When we return, we hear from you. Do stay. Welcome back. Now, one thing that many of us are fervent, passionate about is bringing an end to illegal mining, aka Galamsey. And that hashtag continues. Stop Galamsey now. There has been Dr. Ken Ashigbe and his group pushing for that, and even the signing of the Anti-Galamsey Pact. But we'd like to hear from you. We voted massively for the National Democratic Congress to take over the reins of government. They have spoken about doing certain things, bringing to bear certain actions when it comes to fighting Galamsey, even revoking Article 2462, or LI 2462, actually, LI 2462, in terms of allowing people to mine in forest reserves. But what do you think about this? What are your expectations of the incoming administration? You can call that number at the bottom of your screen, 0302 211 691. That's the conversation we're having. You voted. You can shape the way we fight Galamsey as far as the incoming administration is concerned. What are your expectations? What are your hopes? What do you want to see? In fact, when it comes to fighting corruption, the transitional team, or the Mahama incoming administration, has put a team together to fight it. But how about Galamsey? Well, we have Edwin on the line this morning. Edwin, good morning.
Good morning.
Where are you calling from, Edwin?
Yes, I'm calling from Bolga.
All right, Bolga. Edwin, what are your thoughts? What are your expectations when it comes to fighting Galamsey?
Yes. Yes. I expect the current government to investigate into their quantum mining issues and all other Galamsey mining issues that has brought this country to our knees. But I expect the media to talk about the big issue, which is how the African unity. Because I know with the African unity, we all will be free from this. But the media keep on talking of the smaller chiefs treating the bigger chiefs. Unless Africa unites, the smaller chiefs will continue to be able to loot this country. And I plead on all the bigger voices like Martin Kwebu and the rest to speak about this issue, the African unity issue, and let's fight the bigger chiefs and leave the smaller chiefs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Please, when you call, just listen on the phone. Don't engage by listening on your TV or other set. There will be a delay. Listen on the phone and make your submissions very brief. You can call that number, 0302 211 691. What are your expectations of the incoming Mahama administration when it comes to tackling the menace of what you see behind me, illegal mining, Galamsey? You can call through and share your thoughts with us. We all want it to end because we are all getting compromised. There have been reports from other parts of the world suggesting that even our yam, our tuber products and others may be contaminated, even our cocoa as well. We have another caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my brother. How are you doing?
I am well. This is Chris from Ho, right?
Correct.
What are your thoughts?
My thought is about the corruption in the judiciary. I will pray that the incoming government should clean up the judiciary proper so that the corruption in the judiciary should stop. If we don't have a correct judiciary system in Ghana, our Ghana that we love so much will crumble. From the past government, what the past government have done to the judiciary, the way they have messed up things, I will pray that the incoming government, the Mahama government, as he promised, we should deliver and clean up the judiciary. That's my thought.
All right, you want the cleaning up of the judiciary. But your thoughts on Galamsey?
As for Galamsey, Mahama already promised that they're going to do something about it. They have to stick to their gun and make sure they stop Galamsey, because Galamsey has destroyed our environment. The farmlands have been destroyed. Very soon, if you don't take time, we are going to be importing water from neighboring countries, which is very bad. We have a lot of lagoons in Ghana. We should have been exporting water to other countries, but rather, because of Galamsey, because of individual interests, they have destroyed our water bodies, and now Ghana is in a mess in terms of water. So they should clean up the system, make sure they stick to their gun, chase those Galamsey people, the Chinese, those who are destroying our land, arrest them and stop the Galamsey to clean up our system. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your thoughts there, Chris, I believe. The phone lines are still active. You can call through and share what your thoughts are. 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. What thoughts do you have for us? Any propositions, any proposals for the incoming administration in terms of how Galamsey, illegal mining, can and should be dealt with? Now, there's something interesting. If you look at the voting pattern, even in Galamsey areas, it tells you that though the thinking was that the NPP was punished in 2020 for tackling the menace, that may not have been true. But let's go on to our next caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Your name, where you're calling from, please.
My name is Baba. I'm calling from Kumasi.
Baba from Kumasi. What are your thoughts for us?
Yes, I have something to say on what is happening in Parliament. We are learning with shock how the majority are insisting that their business document should be allowed to pass. They are, when the minority is objecting to it, they are insisting that if they don't pass what do we call it?
All right. Let's also do this. Unfortunately, we lost you, but let's also do this. We are talking Galamsey. We are not opening the phone lines to talk about diverse matters. Our focus is solely Galamsey. So if you call, please, let's talk Galamsey. We're activating the phone lines on this subject. Let's know what your thinking is on Galamsey, not on... If you're going to talk about Parliament, it must be related to Galamsey. Maybe a bill or something of the sort. It could be LI 2462, but the focus must be Galamsey, not the standoff in Parliament, not the petition against the Chief Justice, nothing like that. Let's talk Galamsey. 0302-211-691. Good morning. Your name, where you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm Prosper, calling from Wa.
Prosper from Wa. Your thoughts?
I want to talk about on the Galamsey. In fact, if President Mama should prosecute all those, especially Akonta
mining.
Yeah. Akonta
well, that
mining,
is if they have breached the law, and we heard the current president say that they hadn't at the second asking. So if they have breached the law, yes, why not? Go ahead.
No, Joy News reported that did the investigation. I mean, it clearly shows that there are some areas that they entered that they are not supposed to enter. So those who are culpable, in fact, everybody that is culpable in this government, they should prosecute. That's the reason why we gave John Mahama that vote. We all entered into the bush and campaigned for him. So when he comes, we should make sure all those guys who are embezzle money should be punished.
Okay. Prosper, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing them. 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. What do you think? It's a matter affecting all of us, illegal mining, a.k.a. Galamsey. Our water has been affected. The food products we are eating have been affected. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Please, this is Kamal, and I'm calling from Buku.
This is who?
Kamal, and I'm calling from Buku.
All right, Kamal from Boku. What are your thoughts for us?
Regarding the illegal mining, I suggest the government should set up a committee, a private committee, to investigate it properly. Because if the government has to handle it, this corruption and other things might come into it, and then it might affect it. So the investigation might not go as planned or as we want.
All right. So those are your proposals. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts there. You can also call and share what your thoughts are. Some of you watch all the time. You listen to other people talk and all that. How about you have your say? Let's hear from you as well. Maybe you could say something that eventually could lead to policy shifts that could stem the tide of illegal mining. So don't take your opinion for granted. Call through, let us know what's on your mind, and we'll take it from there. The number to call is at the bottom of your screen. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is King Kong, calling from Bongo.
King Kong?
King Kong.
From Bongo?
Yes.
All right. I see you are Lord of Bongo. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yes, so I want to say that the government should put its foot down, because if care is not taken, a time will come, Ghana will have less rainfall, and that will affect our agriculture sector. So it's high time the government do something about illegal mining. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your thoughts. I see a message coming through on our live stream. This one says Galamsey should be done in a proper way. But the problem is, you see, Galamsey is already illegal. You can't commit a crime in a proper way. That's just the point. Elizabeth, on your point. And then Senyo says, let our army start tracking all the owners of those illegal mining sites. And that's another proposal coming through. Mining should be done in a sustainable way, yes. But to say Galamsey, which is illegal mining, should be done, that is not, it's not even available. We have another caller. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Your name, where you're calling from, please.
I'm Sumaila. I'm calling from Wa.
Sumaila, your thoughts?
Yes. We all know Galamsey is causing a lot of damage to the land and then our natural resources. But we should also look at those people involved in Galamsey. It is also a source of living for them. So let's look at it in a broader sense. We have the natural resources, but they are not inherent to the benefit of the general public as they are supposed to be. The people or the companies mining the gold, you can see that many of those companies are foreign-based. Why can't our government also set up companies, bring the machines that can do the mining, so that our people will do, and the money coming from those mining will come to the government and then benefit the people directly instead of taking some royalties and those things from the mining companies. So if government take up the mandate to do the mining, I think it will help us so that people can move from the Galamsey into the mainstream mining. I think that's my...
Thank you very much. Thank you all for calling. We're grateful for your thoughts, which you shared. But it is time now for us to cross over to Studio 997. Our sister station, Joy 99.7 FM, is hosting Majority Leader Afenyo-Markin. Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Let's cross over.
If you look at the records, within 4 years, you've lost massively. And then you come back after 4 years to win that number of seats. Move to 2008. NDC gained back some seats from us. And then in 2012, we were further reduced. We had about 125 seats. Then 2016, we had 169 MPP. So we gained back over 40. We got 46 seats more. So within 4 years, NDC had celebrated a sweet victory, a parliamentary majority. But within 4 years, we had 46 gains, and then we had 169. Then within 4 years again, 2016 to 2020, with our 169, we came down all the way to 137. Of course, the independent joined us to make us 138, giving us a single seat majority, meaning that we again lost over 37 seats within 4 years. Then come 2024 elections. We've gone further down. I believe that with hard work, collective posture in the chamber, come 2028, we'll turn things around. Our friends in the NDC were not heartbroken when we defeated them in 2016 and when we had over 1 million votes for a presidential candidate.
Almost 1 million.
Almost. For a presidential candidate. And they were dealt with at the parliamentary level. We had overwhelming majority, which was the first in the history of our politics. They didn't give up. They went back home, did their introspection, came back stronger. And I believe that that history and our own history in 97 would guide us as we move into 2025 to put together a formidable opposition, a formidable minority to keep the feet of our friends to the fire. I'm very optimistic that we'll get there, and I'm ready to lead that charge. We'll get there. I mean, when you are in office, there are a lot of things that would go against you. You are implementing a policy. People will be disappointed. People will be happy. There may be policies that you may not be able to implement. Power itself, how people manage themselves when there is power, and all. With time, the apathy at the grassroots, people have their own concerns, have a certain expectation that they've helped the party to come into office. They have certain expectations. So from the one that you get elected, you start losing your vote. And if you look at the trend, if you really study the outcome of the elections, first, we had 6 million Ghanaians who decided not to vote at all. If you look at the electoral roll, the register, we have 18 million plus Ghanaians in there.
Yes.
Now, the total voter turnout was around 12 million, not up to 30 million.
Exactly.
So 6 million did not vote. That's a third of Ghanaians who decided they won't vote at all. Then let's deal with those who voted. For those who voted, you realize that for MPP, 2020, what we got, and now, some 2 million plus of our votes went off. Whereas in the NDC presidential candidate, if you compare what he had this time and that of 2020, he only gained some 100,000.
Aren't we simplifying that? Because you look at the NPP, for instance, and you say, oh, 2 million didn't vote, but this number voted. Do you know for certain whether these are NPP members or these were people who may have voted for you because they probably may have liked your policies, but even voted for a different candidate? Because if you look at your parliamentary candidate votes, they had more votes than the presidential candidate. certainly we cannot easily conclude that these were MPP voters.
Okay, so let me go with your argument on the fact that they were not MPP voters. But it doesn't also take away the fact that some 2 million people who voted for us in 2020 election did not vote for us. Whereas in the NDC, they only had a net gain of about 100,000. Okay?
Yeah.
So that said, you can now make certain inferences. But we as a party, we are yet to set up a committee to go into the issues. So I believe that when the committee is set up and they come out with their report, we would be able to get a better understanding of the issues. And it is not going to be the first. Our friends in the NDC did it, the Kwesi report, and they studied it and they implemented the recommendations. So I'm sure we would also have an opportunity to deal with it. Now, NDC has overwhelming majority in parliament. You know, they've promised a lean government. I can foresee a lot of their MPs being redundant.
How?
So, they've promised some 40 to 60 ministerial...
60 ministers.
Well, so 60 ministers. Of the 60, some would have to come from parliament because of the constitutional custom. So, they are going to have about 35 or maximum 40 MPs who will be ministers and deputy ministers. If you take that out of their over 170 seats, they would have about 140 MPs. That is huge. Who would be redundant in parliament, and all they would have to come and do in parliament is to do yeah. All right?
Is their job not to come to parliament?
Now,
first of all, before they become ministers?
These MPs would have demands from their constituents. I'm talking to you in practical terms. I know what I know. And they will be expected to go to their constituencies. The money will not be there because only few would have had ministerial appointment, and that is where their woes will start. We face the same problem. You remember that it got to a point where it was very difficult to get our members into the chamber, where they would tell me that Mr. Speaker was saying, leader, look behind you. Very soon, I would tell the majority leader that look behind, though you have 170 plus, but your MPs will not be there.
Let me get the clarification here. When you say very soon, because you're looking about 40 ministers coming from parliament and there'll be demands on them, is it the case that you're suggesting by virtue of becoming a minister as a member of parliament, you get additional funds? Because we know the salaries that you're supposed to get. Yeah. We know what cabinet ministers get and what non-cabinet ministers get. So where is the money going to come from that they would use to do constituency work?
All right. So not personal to them, but they would have access to opportunities.
What opportunities are we talking about here?
Well, if you are a minister of state, you are a member of parliament, and government policies that allow for some social interventions, okay, you have access to them. You would be the primary source, or you would know, and you would be able to lobby directly that these projects or these resources should go to your constituency. It happens.
Because
you would definitely have an advantage over an MP who is not a minister. It's a fact. Let's not pretend about it.
You make reference to money. You would not have the money sometimes. So
not money to you as a person. Maybe let me clarify. When I use the word money, it is not to your person, but as in resources. Let me just take the word money and away and replace it with resources. Resources for the constituency. Obviously, if you are a minister of energy, if you are a minister for natural resources, minister for local government, you are a member of parliament, you are in a better position to have resources for your constituents as compared to your colleague who is an MP without any rank in government. It's a fact. I can't pretend about it.
And talking about practicality, I mean, you say let's be practical.
Very much so.
Let's be practical. You would agree also that once you become a minister, the expectation is that you get additional funds. And many of you would agree that part of the problem, part of the procurement problem in this country is the expectation of the constituents, isn't it?
Look, we are our own enemies. We politicians, sometimes when we need a power, we forget ourselves. So you're right. We've created a certain expectation, and the people then expect that you have to deliver. For instance, yesterday night I was teasing Dr. KCL Atuba Forsen, the minority leader, that during the campaign, he went to the cocoa growing areas and said that MPP government would have to increase the price of producer price. Okay? So I asked him, Ato, now that you have power, are you going to increase that? Now you say this to the people. Now you have power. You are supposed to increase the price of cocoa, the producer price. Do you have what it takes to absorb the subsidy? You don't, but you've said it. You go around and you make promises. For instance, President Mahama, as a candidate, was promising a lot of social interventions. At the same time, promising that he was going to take away, repeal taxes, nuisance taxes he calls them. Now, how do you introduce Nkukon Kitinkiti policy? Nkukon Kitinkiti, I understand it basically to mean that the government will roll out social intervention programs to help the private sector, the informal sector, so that somebody would have access to do poultry. Somebody will have some access to do his farm. Somebody who wants to go into a confirmed business will do it. But all these things come at a cost to the state. So if you promise these, and then you also promise that you are going to take away taxes, how would you fund the social intervention program? A social intervention program comes at a cost. Again, the private sector, here we are. For the past 3 years, our colleagues have been fighting us. Why do we give tax incentives to the private sector under 1D, 1F? To the extent that yesterday, the day before yesterday, they were even preventing me from tabling the motion for us to consider the 1D, 1F, which would otherwise give opportunity to the private sector to make savings, bring in raw materials at a cheaper cost, invest in their business, expand. This is a major relief to the private sector. They say no. They want to tax them. They should pay taxes on the machinery, on the raw material. So I see some conflicts, some inconsistencies in the NDC. However, I would want to give them a grace period. I want to see how they go about their governance.
What
the
is
first
that
100
grace
days.
period that you want to give?
Oh, for the first 100 days. The first 100 days is we should give them the opportunity to set up the government. We shouldn't be in a rush. That would be bad faith on my part. That would mean I'm being unreasonable. No, I've been in government before. I know how governance is. So I wouldn't want to rush them. All these things that my respected colleague Ablakwa is saying, they did citizens vetting committee during the revolution. It didn't get anywhere. Let him have it.
Before we go for a break.
I'm saying they set it up.
Yes, before we go for a break, quick one.
I'd like to end. Sorry,
okay,
please
go ahead.
Somebody may have to ask Mr. Ablakwa how that committee's work will be funded. If it is a private person who is funding it, they are talking about corruption. We need to know who is funding it, whose money they are going to use to buy fuel, whose money they are going to use to set up the office, whose money, because going around gathering evidence, I'm aware that they've been calling some journalists. Somebody says that, he's going to be Attorney General. He's calling journalists for information and all that, blah, blah, blah. No problem. But we will need to know the committee that he heads, how would that committee be funded? Is it from the state resources or is an individual who's going to fund it? If it's an individual, then the issue of corruption that they are going to deal with must also be interrogated. How is that individual going to fund their activities? What is this motivation? Is it a citizen who thinks that, okay, I just want to give you money to do this work. On what basis? Why? So we would also interrogate the issues. But it's early days yet.
But quickly, you talk about, removal of what was termed as nuisance taxes. Those taxes, e-levy, betting tax, were also taxes that your presidential candidate said he was going to scrap. In fact, as far back as January this year, I think February, when he did his policy statement at the UPSA auditorium, Dr. Bawumia talked about scrapping these taxes that Mahama talks about.
Oh, I don't want you to get me wrong. I made an absolute statement to the effect that this is what Mr. Mahama said and also promised a social intervention program. For me, I am only asking how he can successfully implement these two things. Forget about what Dr. Bawumia said. I'm not criticizing him. If I were criticizing,
yeah, but since he's talking about the same thing, would you, for instance, did you critique it at the time?
No.
I mean, I'm sure you may have been part of these processes. Have you always had concerns with some of these things?
You see, NDC criticized our tax regime. And my point is that when you criticize a tax regime, you are, in other words, suggesting that you will not have any social intervention policy to implement. And I'm saying that so far, the social intervention programs that they've promised to roll out will come at a cost. My question is that how would they fund it?
You also promised social intervention program. That's why I ask you.
We have a track record.
That's why I ask you, have you always had these concerns? And have you, for instance, in your party's meetings, raised them, for instance, and said, these things we're promising cannot be done because of the other promises we've made?
No, you see, we have a track record of keeping our promise. Let's put it out. One, what is NDC's track record on social intervention programs? When we were in opposition, we promised free SHS. We came into office, we implemented it. We promised 1D, 1F as an incentive for the private sector. We came into office, we implemented it. We promised a support program, the livelihood support program, that we're going to expand it. We did. The school feeding, we promised that the school feeding program will be rolled out in all schools because they were in limited number of schools. We promised. Do the fact check. We did. If we have a track record of implementing social intervention programs, and again we make further promise that these are the other programs that we are going to roll out. In the Dr. Bawumia campaign, what he said was that coming into office, he would roll out a digitalized platform, train our youth, and give them access to technology so that through technology, they will be able to create opportunities for themselves. Through technology, businesses would take advantage and expand. The world is being moved by technology now.
Okay.
And that's, he believes that with that technological drive being rolled out, the state would gain from that, and therefore there will be no need to have the betting tax, the e-levy, and all that. The NDC has not told us the alternative. If you say that you are going to take away the betting tax yourself, you are going to take away the e-levy, tell us what other sources you are going to rely on to generate revenue.
You also talk about the 1 million, digital training that you talk about. In fact, they started talking about it in 2020. They've talked about the CODES, so they've talked about the National Entrepreneurship Apprenticeship Program. But stay with us. When we come back, we need to talk also about your own assessment as a majority leader and the comment about redundant MPs. I'll ask a few questions about that. Is it not are the functions of a member of parliament not to go and enact laws? Why must an MP who is not a minister become redundant? Our guest this morning, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, majority leader and member of parliament for Ifutu. We'll be right back.
Do you want to study? I present to you
that practically, if you're a member of parliament, you have some other responsibilities. And those responsibilities are rather the ones that determine whether or not you're going to get back to the house. Unfortunately, the law-making responsibility will not be factored by your constituents. There are bread and butter issues, and let's not deny that. But like I initially indicated, we brought all these onto ourselves because of how we approach our campaign. A member of parliament will go into a constituency, meet communities and say, oh, I would pay your fees. When you vote for me, I will do this, I will do that. So once you create that expectation and you come into office, you would have to now be chasing for jobs for people. You will have CVs being brought to you to look for jobs. School fees will come, funeral donations, all manner of requests. And apart from that, demand for projects. They will come to you and say the road must be constructed, electrification, and all. So the MC or the DC, who has that primary responsibility to liaise with government to get those things done, would not even be considered because they've not elected a DC. And the way the NDC has won overwhelmingly in Parliament, and how I can foresee, I'm not praying for a doomsday for them, but I'm telling them the reality. And they know. The way the expectation is, they've charged the people. They went around telling the people that MPP has not done anything for you. Some of the constituencies that we lost, they told them, oh, like a place like Okankwe South, my respected colleague Dakwa Newman. Dakwa was helpless in the dying days of the campaign because she goes to even traditional NDC, MPP areas in the constituency, and she is told that 28 years, Yatuamamo, then Yenya. The people were no more looking at the infrastructure. The people were not looking at the all-important free SHS policy that all parents were benefiting. But they were looking at the bread and butter. All because the NDC had created a certain impression that, look, they're supposed to do more. You are hungry. They are corrupt, etc., etc.
Would you agree the NDC ran a better campaign?
No, I won't say so. Why wouldn't you say so? Because if you run a campaign of mischief and propaganda to win, it's not a better campaign. It will benefit you today, but tomorrow it will catch up with you. And that's the point I'm arriving at. So, with time, let's give ourselves 6 months, 1 year. These MPs I call the redundant MPs will not be able to go back to their people. And that's where their problems will start. Besides, by a constitutional custom, President Mahama has a term. He can't go beyond 4 years. Already in Parliament on Monday, we saw some few things. In Parliament, we see things with our eyes.
What did you see?
We hear things. Their internal struggle has started.
Internal struggle for what?
For leadership. Succession. They've already started their campaign.
As to who becomes
Yes, who succeeds Mahama. Yes. I won't mention names. Time will tell. But I'm telling you that all these would be factored into what happens in 2028. So I am very optimistic that Ghanaians will soon see the hypocrisy, the double standard, the mischief, all the things that they are trying to do now with time, would know who they really are. And I'm not worried at all. All I tell my people is that let's be calm, let's take it easy. Of course, there were areas that there were some irregularities. We are doing auditing of these areas. At the right time, the party would come out with its report. Also, the violence nature with which they snatched some of our seats. They took advantage of Dr. Baumia's concession speech and went all out to unleash violence, which was very unprecedented. I know in elections there are pockets of violence here and there, but this one was very deliberate, well organized. To some extent, MPs, my colleague MPs I respect, were leading the violence, which I found very unfortunate. But they have temporarily succeeded.
Specifically which areas?
Tema Central. Watch the videos, my brother.
And you say an MP led
Of
violence.
course. Watch it. I don't want to mention the name. Watch the video. If you don't have it,
But that
I will
means
send
you've
you.
indicted all your colleagues.
I'm making a point. Okankwe Central. It was an MP who was leading the charge, holding the return officer to declare. He had completed his process in his constituency and went there to do that. Ablekumanov. The videos are there. Your correspondents were there. Ask them. If you don't have the video, I'll share with you. At our press conference, we shared with them. It's a fact. Let's not be in denial. I am saying.
Is the conduct criminal?
I'm not going to determine the criminality.
He held a returning officer.
I'm not
compelled him to make a declaration.
I'm saying that I'm not to determine the criminality or otherwise.
But do you
I am
suspect?
situating my argument on violence.
Yeah, because I've not seen you report him or anybody to the police.
I am saying that I'm situating my argument on violence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me to determine the criminality or otherwise. Already the EC officials who were affected by these conducts have lodged official complaint to their head office.
Not the police.
I'm saying, discussing what I know.
Okay.
The EC has officially issued a statement putting out these facts. The fact that their officers were attacked, the fact that their officers were compelled, cajoled to make declarations, and they have made pronouncements on these to the effect that they are illegal. To the extent that they have given us 9 constituencies where they are going to recollect. And we all know what happened when the recollation was structured, that Ashanti, Bono, Thursday last week, Greater Accra, Friday. Eastern region was supposed to be Thursday. Ashanti and Bono was supposed to be Friday, and Greater Accra Saturday. And all political parties agreed, I repeat, agreed to this arrangement to be undertaken at the police training school at Tesano.
And well, that is the discussion with Alexander Afenyo-Markin, Majority Leader and Legislator for Efutu. It's been pretty interesting. But we come back into our studios now as we wrap up the conversation. 9 lessons, carols, many entities getting into it. How about the lawyers or lawyers-to-be as well? I am pleased to host in the studio the Ghana School of Law's Christian Fellowship leader. In fact, he is the president of the Ghana School of Law Christian Fellowship. And it's all about the Ghana School of Law Christian Fellowship annual carols and Thanksgiving service. Joining me for a conversation, we have Godwin Eli Agbana. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to join the conversation.
You're good. How are you also?
I am well.
Great.
I am well. I see you are decked in the loyally. But let's talk about your group, the Ghana School of Law Christian Fellowship. What is this group about?
So the Ghana School of Law Christian Fellowship is a non-denominational Christian fellowship actually on campus. And we actually comprise every Christian on campus and all the other churches. You know, instead of having the GAMSU, the PENSA, which normally is the case, we have one body that has all the Christians in it. So once you are a Christian on campus, you are right in there. And the idea is actually from one director who had seen the essence of Christ in this journey through the Ghana School of Law. And so far, so good. And anybody who has gone through the journey knows that the God factor is very important.
It's crucial.
Very crucial. Very crucial.
Let's talk about the Yuletide, Christmas. What is the essence for you, for members of your group? Why is it so important?
For us, Christmas is actually the most important celebration because it's not just the 25th December, which is the issue. It's actually not the date or the day Christ was born, but it signifies that day that the gift of the world, that which changes the whole course of history, had happened. So it's a season of joy, of forgiveness, of love. It's that season that, everybody celebrates it, whether Christian or not. We are all in the season. And there's always joy and beauty around the season. So it's a miracle every time it's Christmas.
It's a miracle every time it's Christmas. And the 9 lessons, the carols, the Thanksgiving service, these are things that you've done before.
Yes, please.
What has it been like, even as we talk about this year's, event?
So it's always been beautiful. Just learning from last year, because we entered last year, it was so power-packed. The joy, the happiness, it was really wonderful. The CJ, her leadership, the CJ was there to grace the occasion. We had some very wonderful guests as well. So it was just, we are always with the books. Someone was saying something yesterday. Even when we're partying, there were books around. Like people were opening books, even in the party. So it's one of the...
Law will take over you.
So it's one of those occasions where it is no longer about the book, but it's now just to show some joy and thanksgiving to the Lord.
Okay, so this time round, which guests are you expecting for this carol service and the Thanksgiving service as well? Who are passing through?
So we have the CJ, her leadership. She's still the special guest of honor for this year as well. Okay. We have our Mother Reverend Dr. Christine Tete. She's the preacher. Kwesi Otin is giving us a song.
Okay, the musician.
The musician, Kwesi Otin. And some of the readers, we have our Mother Sandra Thompson, the Secretary of the Bank of Ghana. We have Lawyer Kwame Waja. We have Sam George, the MP for Pram Pram, Nigo Pram Pram.
Nigo Pram Pram.
Yes, and then we have a host of other people who are all coming in there to join us. We have our patron, in fact, the registrar of the law school, the director of the law school. We all know the very wonderful, affable lawyer Yaopon. It's also the justice. So it's also there. All of them will be there to grace the very beautiful occasion.
I see. And what should the participants, members of the School of Law, expect as they come for this carols and Thanksgiving service?
It's another time of joy and thanksgiving. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stress in there. So when you have an opportunity to thank God for even bringing you in there, it takes a lot to even get in there. Some would write entrance exams for years. So if you are finally in there, there's everything to be thankful to God for. And if you get it to part 2, trust me, it's another grateful moment to say thank you. And some of these things, somehow maybe the public may not really appreciate it, but if you're in there, you would really appreciate it. And anybody around the system really appreciate it. So it's just a time to appreciate God. It's a time to just come, get ready, to just thank God. And dance out your heart. So bring your dancing shoes.
Okay.
And sharpen your mouth for some loud shouts.
I see.
Yes.
I don't know whether those with 2 left feet who are members of the School of Law would still be invited because, Charlie, some people, the dancing simply need the dance. But before you take leave of us, your final words, are there any groups you would like to recognize?
Exactly. So we want to really celebrate the multimedia group. You've been wonderful. You've given us a lot of attention and coverage. Want to thank EIB Network. Want to thank Vortic. These people have been very supportive. Enterprise Life also has given us some support. We want to also thank our life patron, His Lordship, Reverend George Ampiabonin. He's been very supportive. We want to thank all the SRC executives. We want to thank all the other executives and the planning committee of this carol service. I want to thank you so much. And I'm hoping that I'll see you there as well.
Hopefully.
This one. The hopefully is not hope.
Let's see how it goes. It's a packed itinerary for me. But thank you so much for having breakfast with us, and we wish you the very best at this carols and Thanksgiving service. That is Godwin Eli Agbana. He's president of the Ghana School of Law Christian Fellowship, and he just joined us for this conversation. And this is how we cap off the show this morning. My name is Benjamin Akako. Thank you for joining us on the AM show. Up next is Joy News Desk. You want to stay for that.